Hello, and welcome to Bedtime Peace, a quiet corner of the universe where curiosity softens into calm, and science gently guides you toward sleep. If your thoughts are still busy, if your body is tired but your mind won't slow down, you're in the right place. Together, we'll drift through wonder until the weight of the day dissolves into dreams. Time is quiet when you're not listening. It doesn't ask for attention. It simply moves, soft as fog, sure as a heartbeat. Tonight, you aren't chasing it. You're following it, gently, as it winds between seconds and stars. You begin here, lying still. The light is low. Your body is slowly forgetting the weight of the day. And in this hush, something ancient stirs. The question you've always carried without asking. What is time, really? You've heard it all your life. Time flies. Time heals. Time runs out. You can waste it, lose it, keep it. But can you ever truly hold it? You try to remember today, how it passed, how it felt. Some parts moved quickly, a laugh, a song. Others stretched long and quiet, like the pause before sleep. But the clock never changed its rhythm. Only you did. This is where the journey begins, not in a lab or a lecture hall, but in your own experience. Because time, as you live it, is not just measured by clocks. It's painted by feeling. Right now, your mind slows. Thoughts unravel into long, loose threads. You notice how your breath takes on a rhythm, like a tide moving in, then out. And in that rhythm, in that pulse, you begin to sense time as something not outside of you, but inside you. Think of a moment that passed too quickly. A summer evening, maybe. A conversation that could have lasted forever. In those moments, time didn't speed up. You simply stopped watching it. Now, imagine the opposite. A wait that never ended. A classroom clock, a traffic jam. There, every second felt like a sentence. Why? Because your brain doesn't count time with gears or wires. It counts it with attention. When you're fully present, immersed, alive, your inner clock lets go. But when you're waiting, watching, time becomes louder, like a dripping faucet in a quiet room. Science has a name for this, subjective time, and your perception of it is shaped by emotion, memory, focus, not just by ticking seconds, but by the story those seconds tell. And now, here you are, lying still, listening. Your story tonight unfolds not in hours, but in questions, because time isn't only physics, it's also feeling. Even in the world of science, the deepest truths about time aren't found in formulas alone. They are found in the gentle paradox that time is both absolute and deeply personal. Outside, the stars trace circles across the sky. They have done this for thousands of years. Before calendars, before clocks, time was measured by shadows. And stars, by the swelling of the moon, by the hush before the dawn. Can you feel that kind of time? Not the one on your phone, but the one in your bones. The slow rhythm of sleepiness, the soft pull of the night, the ancient whisper that now is always unfolding. You are not separate from time. You are made of it. Every cell in your body holds a kind of clock. Every heartbeat echoes an unseen rhythm. And every breath you take marks the passage of a universe that keeps time not only in stars, but in size. Let this chapter settle now, like dust on an old book. Not closed, not finished, just paused. Because what happens next is not a leap forward, but a deepening. If time bends in your memory, if it stretches in silence and shrinks in joy, what else can it do? And what part of that bending comes from the way your mind works, not from time itself. Let's walk a little deeper into your own perception, not into the ticking world of clocks, but into the clock you carry behind your eyes. You'll see, soon, why time moves differently when your mind is still, and how your own awareness writes the rhythm of your days, and so you drift, not forward, but inward, into the winding halls of memory, where time doesn't follow rules, but feelings. Turn the page softly. The next chapter is already waiting, just beyond the tick you didn't hear. Time doesn't always march. Sometimes it drifts. Sometimes it bends. Sometimes it wraps itself around your thoughts like a blanket, so soft you don't realize you've fallen asleep inside it. Last chapter, you followed time through your breath. Tonight, you'll follow it through your mind. Because, in truth, time doesn't just pass around you, it passes through you. And your brain decides how fast, how slow, how deeply it is felt. Close your eyes and remember, have you ever waited for news, for a message, a result, a knock at the door, and felt how heavy every minute became, as if time itself was holding its breath with you? Now recall a moment of joy, laughter spilling in waves, a walk under golden light, a story that made you forget to check the hour. Time, then, was featherlight, moving fast, without form or friction, but nothing about time changed. What changed was you, inside your brain. There's no ticking second hand, no hourglass, no sundial. Instead, you have attention, and attention sculpts time like wind, shapes, sand. When your mind is still, when nothing distracts it, you notice time. You hear the tick. You feel the slowness. This is why waiting stretches minutes into miles. Into a quiet room, your thoughts turn inward. You scan every second. Each one lands loud and slow. Scientists call this time perception, and it lives in your brain, not in the sky or the stars. It is molded by focus, feeling, and flow. There's something called the internal pacemaker. Not a machine, but a metaphor, a rhythm your brain uses to track how long things take. When you're bored, this pacemaker speeds up. It sends more pulses, and your brain misreads that activity as more time having passed. It's like being stuck in a loop, counting the same slow beat again and again. But the opposite is true too. When you're immersed reading, painting, laughing, learning, your mind forgets to track time. It whispers, "We're busy. Let the clock be," and the minutes melt away. This is called flow, a state where you lose track of time because you are so deeply present. The psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi named it that blissful feeling of being in the zone. Not rushing, not bored, just flowing, effortless focus, gentle immersion, no past, no future. Just now, you felt it, haven't you? Perhaps while drawing or listening to music, perhaps even now, as the sound of this voice follows your breath. Slow and steady, but attention isn't the only trickster. Emotion reshapes time to fear stretches time. When danger strikes, a sudden noise, a sharp break, your senses heighten. Your brain records more detail, and when you look back, those moments seem longer than they actually were. That's why a near miss on the road can feel like it lasted a minute, when it was only 2 seconds. Joy, on the other hand, collapses. Time, it floods the mind with warmth, with motion, with presence, and the brain records less, not because it isn't important, but because it isn't afraid. And so, joyful moments become brief blinks, sweet but short, slipping away before we can fully hold them. It's not fair, is it? that bad times feel longer and good ones vanish like mist. But perhaps that's not time's fault. Perhaps it's a signal reminding us to notice the joy, to stretch it out, to pay attention when we feel whole. Memory plays a part too. Your brain doesn't store time like a tape recorder. It stores impressions, fragments of what mattered, and builds time around them. That's why childhood felt so slow, each season new, each sound unfamiliar. Your brain was capturing everything, a flood of firsts. And when you look back, those years feel long, wide, golden. But now, your days repeat. Your mind skips the details, compresses them into highlights, and the weeks blur into months, months into years. Routine shortens your mental timeline. Novelty expands it. To feel time again, you must make it new. Even language bends how you think about time. In English, time moves forward. We look ahead, leave the past behind. But in some cultures, the past is in front, known, visible, remembered. The future is behind, unseen and unknowable. Can you feel the shift? Time is not a direction, it's a perception, a belief, a lens through which you see change. Your brain shapes time not just through attention and emotion, but through the story it tells. It stitches together moments into a narrative, and that narrative becomes your experience of time. This is the elastic clock of your mind. It is not precise, but it is profound. It tells you when to pause. It warns you when something matters. It wraps time around feeling, so you remember not just when, but how something lived in you. And right now, in this soft moment, your inner clock is ticking differently. Not in seconds, but in silences. Not in numbers, but in calm. You are not counting time anymore. You are floating in it, sinking deeper, where each word is a ripple, and each breath is a chapter. Let this thought settle with you. Time is not fixed, not even inside you. You carry a clock that changes shape based on attention, emotion, and memory. And when you understand that, you begin to shape your own time. You begin to slow down, not the world, but your way of seeing it. Let this night stretch. Let the minutes lengthen. Let your breath be the metronome of your own gentle now, because something even stranger awaits, a truth whispered by physics, not just feelings. If your brain can bend time, what if time itself is bendable? And so, you slip softly toward the next chapter, where science peeks beneath the surface of moments and asks, does time truly flow, or do we only believe it does? Memory is not a recording. It's a painting, textured, incomplete, and alive. You don't store time like a calendar or clock. You store feeling, shape, color, and sensation. And from those, your mind reconstructs what happened, and how long it seemed to last. This is why time feels different in hindsight, why years stretch or shrink depending on how they're remembered. Your memories are not just footprints, they are time itself, retold and reshaped with every step. Close your eyes now. Drift backward, softly, into your earliest memories. A summer day, the smell of something warm in the kitchen, the sky wider than you'd ever seen it. Do you notice how long that moment feels? Childhood is full of firsts, and firsts are heavy with detail. The brain records them more richly, because it's still learning what matters. New sounds, new faces, new feelings, all carved into the mind like fresh marks on soft clay. This flood of novelty slows down perceived time. The more there is to remember, the more space those memories seem to take. And so, looking back, Your childhood feels endless, a season that stretched far beyond the calendar. But as you grow older, routine creeps in. You wake, you work, you repeat. Days blur, weeks collapse into sameness. There is less newness, and fewer landmarks for memory to hold on to. Without novelty, memory compresses. And when memory compresses, time seems to shrink. The years feel faster, not because they are, but because there's less for your mind to build time around. You're not losing time, you're simply storing it more efficiently, like zipping a large file into something small and quiet. But there's a secret to stretching. Time again, seek newness. New experiences force your brain to pay attention. Travel to a new place, try a new dish, take a different route home. Even small changes awaken memory and awaken your sense of time. You don't need to chase adventure. You only need to notice a new sound, a strange scent, a single moment that breaks the pattern. This is how memory shapes the clock, by giving it stories worth remembering. Let's explore something deeper now. Have you ever remembered something and then remembered it again differently? Not because it changed, but because you did. That's because memory isn't fixed. It's not a photograph. It's a living reconstruction. Every time you remember something, you rewrite it ever so slightly, adding new emotion, new context, a new understanding of what it meant. Memories then are not windows. They are mirrors, reflecting who you were and who you are becoming. And in that mirror, time becomes fluid. There's another layer to this. Your memory is not one single system. There are many types, each shaping time differently. Episodic memory is the vivid recall of moments. Your birthday last year, the first time you touched snow. A conversation under dim light. This type of memory builds a mental timeline. It lets you say, that happened before this. It gives time a direction, a sequence. Then there is semantic memory, the things you know but don't remember learning. The capital of your country, the taste of salt, the rules of a game you haven't played in years. Semantic memory floats, untethered to time. It holds knowledge, but not when it was acquired. Your mind moves between these stories and facts, moments and meanings to shape the flow of time in your life. And when something emotional happens, something joyful or painful, your memory sharpens. Emotion acts like a spotlight. It tells your brain, this matters, save it. And so the details stick, the temperature of the air, the exact words spoken, the way your chest rose and fell. That's why certain memories glow. They are steeped in emotion. Time, in those moments, becomes unforgettable. But sometimes, memories don't come with dates. They come with feeling. You smell a perfume and you're 5 again. You hear a song and you're back in someone's arms. The brain doesn't always file things neatly. It files them in echoes, in shadows, in scent and sound. This is called context-dependent memory. The past isn't locked away. It lives all around you, waiting to be reawakened by the right key. And then there's flashbulb memory, a term used for moments so impactful. They burn into the mind with striking clarity. People remember where they were, what they were wearing, what the sky looked like. These memories feel more vivid, more anchored, and because of that, they expand our perception of time. But not all memories are sharp. Some fade, not because they weren't meaningful, but because your mind chooses what to keep based on how often you revisit it. The more you recall something, the stronger it becomes. The less you do, the softer the edges grow. Your brain is not a vault, it's a storyteller, and time, in your mind, is the story you keep telling yourself. So tonight, if the days feel short, if the years feel fast, perhaps it's not because they were, but because you haven't visited them in a while. Take a moment now, return to a quiet memory, one that meant something. Walk through it slowly, notice what your body felt, what your eyes saw, what you've forgotten and what you still carry. You'll find that as the memory deepens, time begins to stretch again. Time, after all, is not just what passes, it's what you choose to remember, and what you allow yourself to feel. You are not trapped in time. You are shaping it with every heartbeat, with every story you hold close. So when the hours seem short and the seasons blur, go back. Remember something small, something beautiful, and let time open wide again, because when memory breathes, so does time. And now, as memory fades into silence, a new question drifts in. What happens in those moments when time disappears entirely? When you lose yourself in something so fully, you forget the clock even exists. Time does not always need to be watched. Sometimes it disappears willingly, folding itself behind your thoughts and letting you drift forward, weightless and aware, but no longer counting. There are moments in your life when hours pass like wind through trees, invisible but alive with movement. You begin something, a painting, a puzzle, a long walk, and when you finally glance at the clock, you realize you've been gone, not from the room, but from the awareness of time itself. This is called flow, not a term of poetry, but of psychology, a state of full immersion where action and awareness merge and time becomes irrelevant. It happens when you're focused but not straining, challenged but not overwhelmed. It happens when the world narrows to just the task before you, and yet your mind feels wide open. Csikszentmihalyi, the psychologist who named it, described it as the secret to happiness. Not the kind of joy that bursts loudly, but the quiet kind, the one that hums while you're doing what you love. Flow is not distraction, it's not escape, it's presence pure, deep, and undivided. Imagine a violinist lost in her music, not thinking of each note, but becoming the melody. Or a writer, fingers flying, not pausing to second guess, but simply letting the words arrive. Or a child stacking stones by a river, so absorbed they forget to ask, "What time is it?" These are flow moments, where doing becomes being, and in those moments, your brain behaves differently. Neuroscientists have studied this. In flow, the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that watches, worries, and checks the time, quietly steps back. The sense of self softens. You don't disappear, but the voice inside you becomes silent. Doubt fades, time fades. What remains is movement, clarity, ease. Your body becomes an instrument, your thoughts a river, the hours irrelevant. Flow isn't rare, but it requires the right conditions. First, there must be a goal, not pressure, but purpose, something you're moving toward. Then, a balance of challenge and skill. If it's too easy, you grow bored. Too hard, and anxiety creeps in. But in the sweet spot, where your ability meets just enough resistance, flow finds you. Time, in this space, becomes elastic. Not because you ignore it, but because it stops being necessary. You're not tracking minutes, you're living inside them. You've likely felt this while creating, playing, learning, or even listening, perhaps now, as your breath slows and the words rise and fall like waves that never break. Flow is a rhythm you remember, and yet it is beyond memory. Because afterward, You often forget how long you were there. You simply know you were, and that it mattered. There's something sacred in that loss of time, a surrender, a stillness that moves, a doing that feels like resting, and your brain thanks you for it. Studies show that flow increases dopamine, the chemical of pleasure, learning, and motivation. It lights up the brain's reward pathways, not in a burst, but in a steady glow. Flow isn't addictive like distraction. It's nourishing. When in flow, your body may be still or active. It doesn't matter. What matters is engagement. The way you pour your attention into the now, until everything else falls away. Even hunger, even fatigue, even the ticking world outside. Athletes call it the zone. Artists call it inspiration. Monks might call it presence. But whatever name it, where's flow is a doorway to joy that needs no applause, to time that leaves no residue, to a moment that is enough in itself. All things, you can find it in brushing your dog, or baking bread, or planting seeds. Flow is not found in speed, but in stillness, not in success, but in surrender. And the more you allow it, the more it visits. There is something healing about forgetting time, not in a chaotic way, but in a way that reminds you, you are not here to chase minutes. You are here to live them. Flow is the brain's quiet rebellion against urgency. It says, let me do one thing deeply. Let me be nowhere else. Let me become what I am doing. You don't fall into flow. You let go into it, and when you return, the world is still there, but softer, your thoughts quieter, your breath steadier, and maybe, just maybe, you carry a little piece of that stillness with you. Tonight, you are close to it. This gentle space you're in, where the voice carries you and you're not quite. Watching the clock, this is its edge. This is what forgotten hours feel like. And though you can't command flow, you can invite it. By doing what absorbs you, what matters, without demanding attention. So if you seek more time, don't try to make it. Make space, space for focus, space for ease. Space where you stop measuring and start living. Let the forgotten hours return. Not because you missed them, but because you gave them freely. Let your hands create. Let your breath follow. Let your thoughts become simple. Time will step aside, and the world, for a little while, will stop rushing. But what happens when time doesn't stretch or disappear, but instead drags? When each moment is loud, and the hours echo like an empty room? Next, we meet the rhythm of boredom and the strange ticking that fills the silence. There are days when time refuses to flow. It doesn't stretch or vanish. It lingers, heavy, still, loud. These are the hours of boredom, when nothing new arrives, when your thoughts loop and the air feels thick with waiting. Boredom has no rush, no flavor, no color, and yet it has power to bend time in a strange, slow way. You felt it, perhaps as a child in a long classroom, staring at a ticking clock that never moved fast enough, or as an adult, waiting in a room where nothing happens, watching the walls for signs of life. In these moments, each second seems exaggerated. Time, like a drum, beats louder when the room is silent. But why? The answer lies in your brain. Inside it, you carry something called a pacemaker. Not the kind doctors implant in the chest, but a natural rhythm deep in the mind that helps. You track time internally. Scientists believe this pacemaker works like a mental metronome, producing regular pulses, tiny internal ticks that your brain uses to estimate how much time has passed. When you're bored, that pacemaker speeds up. It doesn't mean time itself is going faster, but you're counting more pulses per moment. Imagine sitting in silence, with nothing to do. Your attention turns inward. You become hyper-aware. Every sound feels sharper, every second more defined. Your brain, unstimulated, starts counting. Everything tick, 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 dot. And the more you notice, the longer time feels. This is why a 5-minute wait can feel like half an hour when your mind has nothing to hold. It's not the clock that slows down. It's the spotlight of your attention shining too brightly on every passing second dot. In contrast, when you're distracted, when something absorbs your thoughts, your pacemaker quiets. It still ticks, but you're not listening, and time feels light, fast, almost invisible. This delicate system, attention and the pacemaker works together to shape your experience of time and boredom. Though often unpleasant, is an opportunity to feel it closely, to hear time not as background noise, but as rhythm in boredom. You meet the raw mechanics of how your mind senses the flow of the present. Some cultures view boredom as a gift, a doorway to imagination, a nudge toward creativity. Because when the mind has no input, it begins to invent. Children stare out of windows, adults doodle on paper, dreams slip in through the cracks, and yet, in modern life, we flee boredom constantly. We pick up our phones, we scroll, we refresh, we fill silence with sound, and stillness with stimulation. But in doing so, we lose something subtle, the slow, natural pulse of the pacemaker, the awareness of time as it is. The boredom drum teaches presence, not through joy, but through repetition. Through the loudness of the quiet, even animals feel it. Studies show that in predictable environments, where nothing changes, rats and birds exhibit signs of restlessness, a kind of time-slowing behavior that mirrors human boredom. Their brains, like ours, seem wired to seek change, to prefer movement, to lean away from the still. But boredom also serves a purpose. It tells you when your mind is underfed, when it craves meaning, novelty, engagement. It's not an enemy, it's a message, and sometimes answering it doesn't mean doing more. It means noticing more. Look at your surroundings. Listen to the small sounds, the hum of distant noise, the rhythm of your breath, the gentle movement of air against your skin. These details, once seen, soften the edge of boredom. They give your pacemaker something to hold besides emptiness. Stillness becomes richness. The moment becomes enough. There's another rhythm at play here, ultradian rhythms, cycles in your body shorter than 24 hours that govern your alertness and mental focus. Roughly every 90 minutes, your brain naturally drifts. It moves through peaks and valleys of attention. And in the valleys, boredom can bloom. But if you listen to these rhythms, rather than fight them, you begin to work with time instead of against it. You allow space, you allow quiet, and in that space, your relationship with time becomes softer. You no longer resent its slowness. You welcome it. Even technology measures time differently now. Digital clocks mark seconds precisely, but your experience of those seconds is anything but precise. Your internal clock is guided by mood, attention, and yes, even fatigue. When you're tired, your brain's pacemaker pulses irregularly. Time slips, then slows, like a song played on a warbling tape. And when you're sad, time can feel like it's dragging its feet. Grief and depression have been shown to distort time perception, making days feel longer, even if they pass no slower. than before. So boredom isn't just empty space. It's a lens shaped by emotion, energy, and awareness. Your mind is never truly still. It is always counting, always comparing, always sensing the beat of the present moment. Tonight, if you feel that slowness, don't resist it. Feel how the seconds stretch, how each one arrives like a quiet knock, inviting you to notice. There's beauty in time that asks nothing of you. No rush, no urgency, just rhythm, tick, tick, tick. That's your pacemaker, reminding you that time, even when slow, is still moving. And maybe, when you stop trying to fill every moment, you begin to feel the shape of time again. Its depth, its quiet, its invitation to be still. Let boredom breathe. Let the drum beat. And in that space, you may find something else waiting. Not a distraction, but a deeper question. If time stretches when you're bored and disappears when you're in flow, what happens when time begins to feel unfamiliar altogether? When the seconds don't follow your senses, but tangle with emotion, culture, and memory. In the next chapter, you'll explore how time doesn't tick the same for every mind or every language. Time is not always a ticking clock. Sometimes it's a road beneath your feet. Sometimes a river that carries you. Sometimes a sky that changes color as you speak. You speak of time every day, but perhaps you've never noticed how strange your phrases are. You spend time, you waste it. You save time as if it were money. You run out of it as if it lived in a bottle. Language wraps around time like skin over bone. It gives shape to what is otherwise invisible. But what if you had grown up speaking differently? Would you still feel time the same way? Let's begin with English, a language that treats time as linear, a path stretching forward. You say the future is ahead. You look forward to things. The past is behind you, out of reach, out of view. You are a traveler on a timeline, always moving forward, never able to turn around. But not all cultures walk this path in the Aymara language, spoken high in the Andes. The past lies in front of you, visible, known, while the future is behind, unseen, uncertain, waiting in mystery. Think of that. You see what has happened. You cannot see what is coming, so why would you face it? In their world, the past stands before them like a mountain, and the future whispers from behind their shoulder. It's not just poetry, it's spatial truth, built into the way they point, gesture, speak. Language becomes landscape. In Mandarin, time is vertical. The past is up, the future down. You rise into history and descend into what has not yet occurred. Imagine falling into tomorrow, or climbing into yesterday. This isn't just metaphor, it's embodied. Speakers of vertical time languages actually think differently when solving time-based puzzles. In Cook-Thayor, an Aboriginal language of Australia, directions shape time, east to west, sunrise to sunset. People in this culture don't say left or right. They say northwest or southeast, even indoors. And when they organize time, they don't lay it left to right as we do. They lay it on the ground aligned with the earth's turning, with their body pointed toward the world. If you sit facing south, time moves from your left to your right. If you turn around, time changes direction. Time, then, is not fixed on a wall. It is part of your place in the world, your body, your position, the land. So ask yourself now, how do you imagine time? Is it a line, a loop, a spiral? Do you feel yourself moving through it? or does it move through you? Much depends on the words you learned first. Language is not just communication. It is cognition. It shapes how you feel, what you feel, including time. But softer, your thoughts, quieter, your breath steadier, and maybe, just maybe, you carry a little piece of that stillness with you. Tonight, you are close to it. This gentle space you're in, where the voice carries you and you're not quite. Watching the clock, this is its edge. This is what forgotten hours feel like. And though you can't command flow, you can invite it. By doing what absorbs you, what matters, without demanding attention. So if you seek more time, don't try to make it. Make space, space for focus, space for ease, space where you stop measuring and start living. Let the forgotten hours return, not because you missed them, but because you gave them freely. Let your hands create, let your breath follow. Let your thoughts become simple. Time will step aside, and the world, for a little while, will stop rushing. But what happens when time doesn't stretch or disappear, but instead drags? When each moment is loud and the hours echo like an empty room. Next, we meet the rhythm of boredom and the strange ticking that fills the silence. There are days when time refuses to flow. It doesn't stretch or vanish. It lingers, heavy, still, loud. These are the hours of boredom, when nothing new arrives, when your thoughts loop and the air feels thick with waiting. Boredom has no rush, no flavor, no color, and yet it has power to bend time in a strange, slow way. You felt it, perhaps as a child in a long classroom, staring at a ticking clock that never moved fast enough. Or, as an adult, waiting in a room where nothing happens, watching the walls for signs of life. In these moments, each second seems exaggerated. Time, like a drum, beats louder when the room is silent. But why? The answer lies in your brain. Inside it, you carry something called a pacemaker. Not the kind doctors implant in the chest, but a natural rhythm deep in the mind that helps. You track time internally. Scientists believe this pacemaker works like a mental metronome, producing regular pulses, tiny internal ticks that your brain uses to estimate how much time has passed. When you're bored, that pacemaker speeds up it. Doesn't mean time itself is going faster, but you're counting more pulses per moment. Imagine sitting in silence, with nothing to do. Your attention turns inward. You become hyper-aware. Every sound feels sharper, every second more defined. Your brain, unstimulated, starts counting. Everything tick, 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 dot. And the more you notice, the longer time feels. This is why a wait can feel like half an hour when your mind has nothing to hold. It's not the clock that slows down. It's the spotlight of your attention shining too brightly on every passing second. In contrast, when you're distracted, when something absorbs your thoughts, your pacemaker quiets. It still ticks, but you're not listening, and time feels light, fast, almost invisible. This delicate system, attention and the pacemaker, works together to shape your experience of time, and boredom, though often unpleasant, is an opportunity to feel it closely, to hear time not as background noise, but as rhythm. In boredom, you meet the raw mechanics of how your mind senses the flow of the present. Some cultures view boredom as a gift, a doorway to imagination, a nudge toward creativity, because when the mind has no input, it begins to invent. Children stare out of windows, adults doodle on paper, dreams slip in through the cracks, and yet, In modern life, we flee boredom constantly. We pick up our phones, we scroll, we refresh, we fill silence with sound and stillness with stimulation. But in doing so, we lose something subtle, the slow, natural pulse of the pacemaker, the awareness of time as it is. The boredom drum teaches presence, not through joy, but through repetition. Through the loudness of the quiet, even animals feel it. Studies show that in predictable environments where nothing changes, rats and birds exhibit signs of restlessness, a kind of time-slowing behavior that mirrors human boredom. Their brains, like ours, seem wired to seek change, to prefer movement, to lean away from the still. But boredom also serves a purpose. It tells you when your mind is underfed. When it craves meaning, novelty, engagement, it's not an enemy, it's a message. And sometimes answering it doesn't mean doing more. It means noticing more. Look at your surroundings. Listen to the small sounds, the hum of distant noise, the rhythm of your breath, the gentle movement of air against your skin. These details, once seen, soften the edge of boredom. They give your pacemaker something to hold besides emptiness. Stillness becomes richness. The moment becomes enough. There's another rhythm at play here. Ultradian rhythms, cycles in your body shorter than 24 hours that govern your alertness and mental focus. Roughly every 90 minutes, your brain naturally drifts. It moves through peaks and valleys of attention. And in the valleys, boredom can bloom. But if you listen to these rhythms, rather than fight them, you begin to work with time instead of against it. You allow space, you allow quiet, and in that space, your relationship with time becomes softer. You no longer resent its slowness. You welcome it. Even technology measures time differently now. Digital clocks mark seconds precisely. But your experience of those seconds is anything but precise. Your internal clock is guided by mood, attention, and yes, even fatigue. When you're tired, your brain's pacemaker pulses irregularly. Time slips, then slows, like a song played on a warbling tape. And when you're sad, time can feel like it's dragging its feet. Grief and depression have been shown to distort time perception, making days feel longer, even if they pass, no slower than before. So boredom isn't just empty space. It's a lens shaped by emotion, energy, and awareness. Your mind is never truly still. It is always counting, always comparing, always sensing the beat of the present moment. Tonight, if you feel that slowness, don't resist it. Feel how the seconds stretch, how each one arrives like a quiet knock, inviting you to notice. There's beauty in time that asks nothing of you. No rush, no urgency, just rhythm. Tick, tick, tick. That's your pacemaker, reminding you that time, even when slow, is still moving. And maybe, when you stop trying to fill every moment, you begin to feel the shape of time again, its depth, its quiet, its invitation to be still. Let boredom breathe. Let the drum beat. And in that space, you may find something else waiting. Not a distraction, but a deeper question. If time stretches when you're bored and disappears when you're in flow, what happens when time begins to feel unfamiliar altogether? When the seconds don't follow your senses, but tangle with emotion, culture, and memory. In the next chapter, you'll explore how time doesn't tick the same for every mind or every language. Time is not always a ticking clock. Sometimes it's a road beneath your feet. Sometimes a river that carries you. Sometimes a sky that changes color as you speak. You speak of time every day, but perhaps you've never noticed how strange your phrases are. You spend time, you waste it, you save time as if it were money. You run out of it as if it lived in a bottle. Language wraps around time like skin over bone. It gives shape to what is otherwise invisible. But what if you had grown up speaking differently? Would you still feel time the same way? Let's begin with English, a language that treats time as linear, a path stretching forward. You say the future is ahead. You look forward to things. The past is behind you, out of reach, out of view. You are a traveler on a timeline, always moving forward, never able to turn around. But not all cultures walk this path. In the Aymara language, spoken high in the Andes, the past lies in front of you, visible, known, while the future is behind, unseen, uncertain, waiting in mystery. Think of that. You see what has happened. You cannot see what is coming, so why would you face it? In their world, the past stands before them like a mountain, and the future whispers from behind their shoulder. It's not just poetry, it's spatial truth, built into the way they point, gesture, speak. Language becomes landscape. In Mandarin, time is vertical. The past is up, the future down. You rise into history and descend into what has not yet occurred. Imagine falling into tomorrow, or climbing into yesterday. This isn't just metaphor, it's embodied. Speakers of vertical time languages actually think differently when solving time-based puzzles. In Cookthale, an Aboriginal language of Australia, directions shape time. East to west, sunrise to sunset. People in this culture don't say left or right. They say northwest or southeast, even indoors. And when they organize time, they don't lay it left to right as we do. They lay it on the ground aligned with the earth's turning, with their body pointed toward the world. If you sit facing south, time moves from your left to your right. If you turn around, time changes direction. Time, then, is not fixed on a wall. It is part of your place in the world, your body, your position, the land. So ask yourself now, how do you imagine time? Is it a line, a loop, a spiral? Do you feel yourself moving through it, or does it move through you? Much depends on the words you learned first. Language is not just communication, it is cognition. It shapes how you feel, what you feel, including time. In English, time is a commodity. We are taught to manage it, spend it wisely, lose it when distracted. It becomes something external, something to tame. But in other places, time is cyclical. Seasons return, stories repeat. What was will be again. In Bali, people do not wear watches. There is no strict schedule. Activities begin when the time feels right, when people are ready, when the rhythm aligns. This is called polychronic time, where many things may happen at once, and presence matters more than punctuality. Contrast this with monochronic time, common in the West, where schedules are sacred, minutes are counted, and lateness is almost a sin. Neither is wrong, but each one builds a different feeling in your body. One teaches you to watch the clock, the other to watch each other. Even grammar shifts the way you feel time. In languages like German or Russian, verbs carry strong tenses, past, present, future, all marked clearly. Plans feel definite, commitments feel rigid, but in others, like Mandarin, tense is looser, fluid, the difference. It affects even how people save money, plan goals. Imagine tomorrow, A study showed that speakers of futured languages, those that grammatically separate the future from the present, were less likely to say for the future than those who speak futureless languages, where the future and present are blurred in grammar. The idea is simple. If the future feels distant, you treat it like another world. But if it feels near, you care for it now. So your grammar may shape your habits, your metaphors may shape your emotions, and your culture may shape how long a moment feels. In some countries, silence is awkward. In others, it is sacred. Some measure time by the clock, others by the sun, by ritual, by rhythm, by breath. Tonight, as you listen, time may already feel different. Not like something you must hold on to, but something you're gently floating through, and that's the lesson here. Time is not universal, not in how it feels, not in how it's spoken, not in how it's honored. It is a mental map, drawn in the language you were taught, and like all maps, it shows you some paths and hides others. But you can redraw the map. You can listen to how others speak of time, not to replace your view, but to expand it. Time, after all, is vast enough to hold many landscapes. So tonight, walk slowly across your own. Pause at the edges. Notice the direction you imagine the past. Where does the future live in your mind? Because when you change how you speak of time, you change how you live inside it. And if your language can stretch time, what about your body? What if deep within your skin, your cells are already telling time in silence? In the next chapter, you'll meet the quiet conductor beneath your thoughts, your biological clock. You are not just moving through time. Time is moving through you. Right now, as you lie still, your body is ticking, not with gears, but with chemistry, with light and dark, with ancient rhythms born long before you ever saw a clock. You are a creature of time, not because you measure it, but because you feel it in your bones, in your hunger, in the soft weight behind your eyes that says, it's time to rest. There is a clock inside you, not made of metal, but of molecules, not mechanical, but biological. And it has been keeping time since before you had words for morning or night. This hidden timekeeper is called your circadian rhythm, from the Latin circa diem, about a day. It's the internal rhythm that tells your body what time it is, even when you're nowhere near a window or a watch. Almost every cell in your body follows this cycle. But the master conductor lives in your brain, in a place no bigger than a grain of rice. It's called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN, nestled just above where your optic nerves cross, perfectly placed to sense light, because light, more than anything, is your body's signal for time. When morning arrives, sunlight enters your eyes, not just to help you see, but to reset your internal clock. That light tells your SCN, it's a new day, begin again, and the orchestra starts to play. Your heart rate rises, your body warms, hormones shift, and slowly sleep loosens its hold in the evening as light fades. Your brain sends out a different signal, releasing melatonin, the hormone that drapes you in drowsiness. It doesn't make you sleep, but it dims the stage, softens the lights, and prepares you to let go. You don't think about these rhythms, but you feel them. You know the fog of waking too early, the ache of staying up too late, the strange dizziness of jet lag. These are not flaws. They are signs that your body's clock has been knocked out of sync, because your inner rhythm is not exactly 24 hours. It runs a little long, about 24.2 hours on average, just enough to drift if you were left alone in darkness. But nature has already solved this. The earth, with its turning, and the sun, with its rising, provide daily reminders, reset, align, begin again. Without them, the rhythm unravels, and your sense of time inside your body begins to blur. Modern life doesn't always listen to this rhythm. We fill our nights with screens, our mornings with alarms. We eat at odd hours. We work in light that never changes, and slowly we lose touch with the timekeeper beneath our skin. Have you ever stayed up too late, staring at your phone, and found that even when you closed your eyes, sleep refused to come? That's your circadian rhythm, confused by artificial light. Blue light from screens mimics daylight, suppressing melatonin, tricking your brain into thinking it's still morning. Even a brief flash of light can shift your rhythm. That's how sensitive your body is, how finely tuned its clock has become. And this rhythm isn't just about sleep. It affects your temperature, your metabolism, your mood, even how your body responds to medicine. There is a field called chronopharmacology, the study of how drugs work differently depending on the time of day. Some medications are more effective in the morning, others at night. Because your cells are not always the same. They move through phases, opening and closing like petals as the hours pass. Your immune system follows this rhythm too, fighting harder at certain times, slowing down at others. Your ability to heal, to digest, to think clearly, all of it is tied to the drumbeat of your internal clock. Even your emotions are rhythmic. Studies have shown that sadness rises in the early morning, crests around dawn, then fades with the day's warmth. Joy, alertness, creativity, they come and go like tides. And yet we rarely ask, what time is my body living in? We check our phones, we check our calendars, but we forget to check ourselves, to ask, am I awake because I must be, or because I should be? Am I tired from work, or from moving against my own rhythm? You are not broken. You may simply be mistimed. Some of us are larks, early risers, bright before breakfast. Some of us are owls, creative in the quiet hours of night. These aren't flaws, they're biological variations written into your genes. But society often favors the morning, and so the owl must struggle to stay awake at meetings. The lark must push through evening fatigue, and the rhythm goes unheard. But if you listen, if you truly pay attention, you can hear the timekeeper inside you. It whispers through your cravings, through your concentration, through the way your eyelids grow heavy at the same time each night. And when you align with it, when you sleep, eat, work, and rest according to your own inner hours, life becomes softer. Not easier, but more in tune. Even plants have clocks. They open their leaves in morning, close them at night. They don't wait for light. They expect it. Their rhythm persists, even in total darkness. An inner faith in time carried in every cell, and you carry that rhythm to dot. Long before you were born, before your first breath, your cells began ticking, marking the hours of growth, the seasons of sleep, the dance of hormones and hunger and healing. You are not separate from time. You are its expression, and while the world outside counts hours, you live in waves, the rise and fall of light and dark, effort and rest, wakefulness and dreams. Tonight, as you lie still, you return to that rhythm, to the quiet clock you've always carried. Let the artificial world fade. Let your mind and body remember what it means to move with time, not against it. Because inside you, the timekeeper never sleeps. It waits patiently, with no judgment, only rhythm, a soft, faithful drum guiding you back to balance. And if your body can tell time in silence, what happens when time becomes a story? A narrative shaped by memory, by culture, by the tales your mind tells itself about what was and what is. Next, we'll walk deeper into that narrative to explore how emotions and reflection twist time into meaning. Time is not always a number. It is not always a clock, a screen, a calendar on the wall. Sometimes it is warmth. Sometimes it is hunger. Sometimes it is the weight in your limbs when the day begins to soften. Inside you, beneath your skin, your body is measuring time in silence, not with alarms, not with reminders, but with cycles that hum gently beneath the surface of your awareness. You wake each morning not just because of habit, but because your body has read the light. It has listened to the rhythm of melatonin falling, of cortisol rising, of temperature slowly climbing like the sun. This is not a guess. It is a system, tuned by light, reset by dawn, sustained by patterns deeper than consciousness. At the core of this system, the circadian rhythm still leads, but its influence stretches farther than you may know. It doesn't only control sleep. It governs your organs, your hormones, your hormones, your energy, even your emotions. Your liver has its own rhythm. So does your stomach, your heart, your brain. Each system, each tissue, each cluster of cells is part of a symphony, and your SCN, your brain's master clock, is the conductor. But like any good orchestra, each section also listens to its own sheet of music. This is called peripheral clocks, internal rhythms, in organs and tissues that work alongside the brain's command, but also respond to what you do, what you eat, when you move, when you rest. These actions send cues, little whispers that guide each cell on when to work and when to wait. Imagine your body as a vast landscape of time, each part knowing its own dawn and dusk, each pulse of energy, each wave of repair, arriving not randomly, but precisely. Your digestive system, for instance, wakes before you do, preparing for the day's meals. It becomes more active in daylight, more efficient at breaking food into fuel. But when night falls, digestion slows. The body shifts from processing to restoring. If you eat late, if you snack in the dark, your digestive clock stumbles. It's like serving breakfast to someone still half asleep, and over time, this misalignment builds. Sleep becomes restless. Energy fades. Weight shifts. Hormones drift off course. Your body has not failed. It's simply being asked to keep time with a rhythm it wasn't built for. Your temperature follows this rhythm too. Coolest in the early morning, warmest in the late afternoon. This is why athletes often perform best in the evening. The body is primed. Muscles are warmer, reaction times sharper, even your blood pressure, your immune response, your ability to focus. They all follow this inner clock. And yet we so often ignore it. We override it with schedules. We suppress it with caffeine, with lights that never dim, with screens that never sleep. And still, our bodies try to stay in sync. Even when we're out of rhythm, our cells keep counting. Even when we forget, the clock beneath the skin remembers. It is ancient, it is resilient, and it is always listening. Jet lag is a perfect example of what happens when we shift too far, too fast. When you travel across time zones, your body doesn't instantly adjust. Your brain might know it's bedtime, but your liver still thinks it's lunchtime. This internal mismatch can take days to resolve, and during those days, your sleep suffers, your digestion wavers, your mood dips. You are not broken. You are simply out of sync, and with time, real time, not rushed time, you return to harmony. Even your skin follows time. At night, it shifts from defense to repair. During the day, it protects, guarding against UV rays, pollution, and damage. But at night, it turns inward. It begins healing. It becomes more permeable, more open to renewal. This is why skincare routines at night often feel more nourishing, because your skin is ready to receive. There is wisdom in timing, and your body holds that wisdom quietly. When you sleep in darkness, you honor that clock. When you wake with the sun, you listen to it. And when you eat, rest, and move at the right times, you are not following rules. You are following yourself. You are remembering that health is not only what you do, but when you do it. Because time is not separate from wellness. It is the structure inside it. So what can you do, gently, to reconnect with the clock beneath the skin? You can start small. Let morning light touch your eyes, even for a few minutes. It resets your rhythm. It anchors your day. Eat meals at regular times, not because of a schedule, but because your body trusts consistency. Wind down in darkness. Dim the lights. Soften your speech. Let your melatonin rise without interruption. And listen, not just to your mind, but to your body's timing. When are you most alert, most creative, most tired? Map those moments. Honor them, because they are your rhythm. And when you follow that rhythm, even a little, life feels less like a push and more like a tide. You are not a machine meant to run endlessly. You are a symphony meant to play in waves. Let that thought rest with you now. You do not need to control time. You only need to listen to it as it rises beneath your skin, soft and ancient, like a pulse that remembers how you were always meant to move. But even with these rhythms, your mind still plays tricks. Time doesn't only live in cells and clocks. It dances with your memories, twists with emotion, and stretches with meaning. Next, we step into that realm where time becomes a feeling, shaped by what you remember and what you forget. Before there were numbers, before calendars and alarms, there was only the sky. You would have stood barefoot in the dirt, watching the sun rise from behind the hills, tracing its slow climb, feeling its warmth on your skin, and knowing it was morning. Time began as light, then shadow, then stars. The earliest clocks were not tools, they were heavens. The sun told you when to rise. The moon told you when to plant. The stars told you where you were and when the seasons would change. You didn't own time, you watched it, and those who watched most closely became the first SKYWATCHRS. They saw patterns where others saw randomness. They noticed that certain stars only rose in the winter, that the moon swelled and shrank with a steady breath, that shadows danced longer in winter and shrank sharp in summer. From these observations came wisdom, not only about time, but about rhythm, about balance. The ancient Egyptians were masters of this watching. They built obelisks, tall slender stones that cast long shadows across the earth. By tracking these shadows, they divided the day into parts. These sundials weren't precise by modern standards, but they were enough. Enough to know when to gather, when to pray, when to harvest. Time back then was tied to life, not productivity. The day unfolded with the sun. The night began not with a clock, but with stars scattering across the sky like sparks from a quiet fire. The Egyptians also built calendars, based on the Nile's flooding, which they noticed occurred just after the star Sirius rose, just before dawn to them. Sirius wasn't just a star, it was a signal, a sacred reminder that the river would rise, that the land would drink, that life would continue. In this way, time and survival were bound together. The Maya, too, were extraordinary timekeepers. They charted the heavens with mathematical precision, without metal tools, without telescopes. They built pyramids aligned with stasis, their staircases shadowed in such a way that snakes of light would appear only on certain days of the year. Their long count calendar could trace spans of time far beyond a human lifetime, tracking not only days and years, but centuries. To them, time was not linear. It was sacred. It was cyclical. It returned. They believed in eras, in cosmic seasons, and they understood that to know time was to know the dance of the cosmos. In Stonehenge, on a quiet plain in what is now England, giant stones were arranged not randomly, but with purpose. On the summer solstice, the sun rises perfectly over the heel stone. On the winter solstice, it sets between two others. It is not a monument to the dead. It is a calendar, a compass, a story written in shadow and light, all across the ancient world, from Mesopotamia to Mesoamerica, from the Chinese dynasties to the Polynesian navigators. Humans looked up and learned how to live. The sky told them when to plant, when to rest, when to gather, when to let go, and perhaps when to dream. Because time wasn't just practical, it was mystical. The moon did not only mark months, it inspired poems, guided rituals, carried prayers. The stars were not just distant suns. They were ancestors, animals, gods, and this made time feel personal. You were not watching a machine. You were listening to something alive. The sky was a teacher, and the first lessons of time came not from control, but from reverence. You didn't command the sun to rise. You waited, you noticed. You aligned your life around its rhythm. Compare that to now. Time is everywhere, glowing on screens, buzzing on wrists, dividing your day into ever smaller increments. And yet, we often feel out of time, rushed, disconnected, scattered. Perhaps because we no longer look up. We no longer notice the slow drift of stars, the rising arc of the moon, the way twilight stretches in summer and folds quickly in winter. But those patterns still exist, still move, still keep time, even if we forget to follow. Tonight, you can remember. Open a window, look into the dark, find a single star. That light may have traveled hundreds of years just to reach your eyes. You are seeing the past, burning gently in the present. That is time, not measured, not forced, but witnessed. Even now, the moon pulls on your body. Tides shift, sleep deepens. Dreams stretch longer near the full moon. Even if you don't see it, your biology is still listening to the sky, even when your mind is not. The ancient sky watchers did not know gravity. They did not know orbits, but they knew enough to live in rhythm, to wake with light, to sleep with dark, to trust in patterns bigger than themselves. And that kind of knowing doesn't fade with science. It deepens, because even now, with all our precision, we are still trying to understand time as they did, through movement, through observation, through wonder. And perhaps tonight, you don't need to measure time. You only need to feel it in the pause between stars, in the hush of your breath, in the slow return of your own rhythm. Let your mind drift now, back to those early nights, when humans sat by firelight and looked up, not to escape the world, but to belong to it. Let time be that simple again, a rising moon, a changing wind, a story told in shadow. But even as ancient people watched the sky, they wondered, could time be captured more precisely? Could it be built, counted, and controlled? In the next chapter, we leave the stars behind and follow humanity's quest to turn flowing time into ticking time. The stars once told us when to sow and when to sleep, but slowly, gently, humans began to ask more of time. Could we hold it, divide it, mark its passage more precisely, not just by seasons, but by hours, by minutes? And so we turned from the sky to the earth, and then to the vessel. The first clocks did not tick, they did not chime, they trickled. The clepsydra, the water clock, was one of the earliest human tools for marking time, a simple bowl, a hole at the bottom, a steady stream of droplets falling from one vessel into another. Time counted not by sound, but by the slow rhythm of water disappearing into emptiness. Egyptians used them at night, when shadows could no longer guide them. So did the Chinese, who built elaborate devices, some with floating figures, others with carved dragons, telling stories as time passed drop by drop. Imagine that, time flowing, literally flowing, from fullness to emptiness, while monks or scholars watched a level rise or fall. These were not precise machines, but they were poetic. They mimicked the body, its blood, its breath, its rhythm of intake and release. Water, like time, was seen as sacred, a substance that could carry memory, wash away pain, and now tell the hour. Then came candles, marked with lines, burning at steady rates. As the wax melted, the hour passed. Some even embedded nails or beads that would fall onto metal plates when the wax reached them, a soft chime in the dark, a quiet bell of passing. Time, quite literally, burned away, and with it came the idea of measurement, not by what was seen, but by what was lost. We didn't watch the sun anymore. We watched flame. We watched water vanish. We watched smoke curl upward like a whisper toward heaven. But something was changing. Humans wanted more control, more precision. And with that desire came the first machines in medieval monasteries. Monks needed to pray at exact intervals, not just morning and evening, but through the night. And so they built mechanical clocks, large, weight-driven contraptions with spinning gears and escapements. They didn't have hands. They didn't need faces. Their purpose was to ring, to toll the hour with sound. Because when sight fails, sound carries. The bell became the voice of time. It echoed through stone walls, across foggy villages, reminding people of the sacred order, to pause, to pray, to realign with something larger. In this way, time became shared, not personal, not silent, but communal. You knew the hour not by light, but by the sound of a bell reverberating through cold morning air. These clocks were not perfect. They drifted. They slowed with weather, with rust, with wear. But their intention was powerful. Time had moved from sky to water to fire to gear dot, and slowly, from flow to tick. By the 14th century, clock towers stood tall in cities, not just in monasteries. Time was no longer only sacred. It became social, civic now. Merchants could agree on meeting times. Markets could open and close with regularity. Labor could be measured, but with precision came pressure. Time became a resource, a boundary, ruler. Still, the early clocks had grace. They were adorned with suns and moons. They featured moving figurines, astrological wheels rotating stars. Time was still beautiful, a kind of theatre, telling stories even as it counted. And while these machines grew in complexity, they never fully abandoned ritual. In some villages, people still paused at the tolling of a bell. They still bowed their heads, not to the machine, but to what had marked the passage, the reminder, the hush. Even as accuracy improved, there remained space for awe, because behind every mechanism was the echo of flowing water, the glow of melting wax, the voice of the stars. And isn't that what time is? A collection of voices guiding you gently forward. Tonight, as you rest, you might imagine the sound of a medieval bell tower, its great iron voice swinging across rooftops, calling not to hurry, but to return to rhythm, not to chase, but to notice. Time was never meant to race. It was meant to chime, to flow, to remind. And before time became digital, before it flickered on screens, it lived in elements: water, fire, stone, sound. It passed in drips, in wax, in the creak of wooden gears, in bells that rang not for deadlines, but for devotion. Let that sound settle now. A distant bell, calling not for work, but for stillness. Because even as we measured time more precisely, we did not always understand it better. And sometimes the softest timekeepers, the water clock, the whispering bell, knew more than we realized. But soon precision would rise. Pendulums would swing, watches would tick, and time would be held tighter than ever before. In the next chapter, we meet the minds who transformed flowing time into mathematical certainty and made the seconds march. There is a silence that follows the chime, a hush after the bell. It lingers like fog, inviting thought and then motion. And in that motion, a question formed. Can time be made more exact? Can we hold it still, just long enough to count it? The answer came not from stone or stars or dripping water, but from the swing of a simple weight, the pendulum, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, a rhythm so constant, so faithful, that it would change everything. It was the 17th century. The world was shifting. Ships crossed oceans. Science whispered bold new ideas. And in a quiet study in the Netherlands, a Dutch scientist named Christian Huygens watched a pendulum swing. He knew what others had suspected, that the swing of a pendulum, under the right conditions, was regular. It didn't matter how heavy the bob was, or how far it swung. The time it took, always the same dot, tick, tock, tick, tock, a heartbeat you could count on. And so he built a clock, one that used this natural rhythm to measure time with stunning accuracy, while older clocks drifted by hours each day. His pendulum clock stayed within seconds for the first time. Humans could know the time with a kind of certainty that once belonged only to the stars. The world listened. Towers were fitted with pendulums. Watches grew more reliable. Navigation improved. And time, once flowing, began to march. But the pendulum needed stillness. It worked best in one place, in towers, in halls, in cities that stood still. And the world wanted to move. Sailors, in particular, faced a great problem. To navigate east or west, they needed to know the exact time at a fixed location, usually home port. Only then could they calculate longitude, the invisible lines that stretched across the globe. But pendulum clocks didn't work at sea. They swayed, they lost rhythm, and sailors lost their way. This became a challenge so great. It was called the longitude problem, a puzzle that plagued explorers for decades. Then came a quiet man, a carpenter named John Harrison, not a scholar, not a nobleman, just a mind tuned to rhythm. He devoted his life to building a clock that could survive the sea. He created marine chronometers, timepieces so precise, so resilient. They changed the course of navigation. His fourth model, H4, looked like a large pocket watch, but inside it was a miracle, springs and gears, so finely crafted that even the rolling waves couldn't disturb its beat. Thanks to H4, captains could sail with confidence. Maps became more accurate, trade expanded, lives were saved, and time, once wild, became a tool for conquest, commerce, control. But Harrison's chronometer wasn't just technology, it was devotion, it was time, crafted by hand. Each gear, each coil, was a whisper of human patience, a tribute to precision, and from his legacy, the world began to think differently about time. It wasn't just something to notice, it was something to master. Watchmakers refined their craft. From London to Geneva, workshops glowed with lamplight as hands shaped balance wheels, escapements, jeweled pivots. Each watch a miniature world where time lived in ticking harmony. The escapement mechanism, a tiny invention with enormous power, was central to it all. It worked like a gatekeeper, releasing energy in precise bursts. It was the reason clocks ticked, not smoothly, but in steps. Tick, pause, tock. Each pause held a decision. Each tick, a breath, with pendulums and gears. Humans no longer followed time, they summoned it, and time obeyed. Church bells rang with confidence, trains departed on schedule, factories ran by the second. Time became not just measured, but owned, and yet there was something poetic still about these early clocks. They were not silent machines. They ticked, they chimed, they swung, they reminded you they were alive. They stood in parlors and towers as proud companions, offering certainty in an uncertain world, and people listened. In those ticking rooms, children learned to count. Letters were written with a sense of moment. Even meals were shaped by the toll of the hour. But as time grew sharper, it also grew stricter. Schedules ruled. Delays became unacceptable. Lateness became a sin. In the pursuit of precision, the soul of time began to change. It was no longer a companion. It was a ruler. Still, the pendulum swung. Still, the gears turned. Still, the world ticked forward. And in every clock, no matter how small, no matter how grand, there remained a hint of the old rhythm. A whisper from water clocks, a sigh from candle flames, a shadow of the stars, because even in gears and springs, time is still felt. It is still human, still imperfect, even in perfection. And when you hear a clock tick, you're hearing history, all of it, from the monk watching the sun, to the sailor crossing unknown seas, to the craftsman filing a gear by candlelight. Time, in this chapter, became sharper, yes, but it also became more intimate, more trusted, more understood. Let the ticking fade now. Let the pendulum rest in your imagination. It does not need to swing forever, just long enough to carry you to the next breath. But what if you need time sharper still? What if seconds aren't enough? What if you need time to guide satellites, to define reality itself? In the next chapter, we leave behind brass and wood and enter the age of quartz and atoms, somewhere inside your wristwatch, inside your phone, Inside machines, humming softly through the night, a crystal is singing. You cannot hear it, but it's there, vibrating, steadily, silently, keeping time more faithfully than any pendulum ever could. This is quartz, a simple crystal, clear and rigid, with a secret gift. When you run electricity through quartz, it begins to vibrate, not wildly, but with precision, like a heartbeat, a hum, a tiny, invisible rhythm. This is called the piezoelectric effect. It means that mechanical stress creates electrical pulses, and vice versa. And in the 1920s, scientists learned to use it to count time. They built circuits that would listen to the rhythm of the crystal, dividing those pulses into seconds, minutes, hours. Unlike pendulums, quartz doesn't sway with gravity. It doesn't care if you're on land, on sea, or in the sky. It just hums. A perfect, tiny drum beating 32,768 times per second. Why that number? Because it's easy to divide. Divide it by 2, 15 times, and you get 1. 1 pulse per second. 1 second per beat. And the world listens. Quartz watches became common in the 1970s, and time once kept by artisans, by gears and hands, moved inside machines. Now the tick came not from movement, but from code, from electrons, from rhythm locked in silence. It was precise, efficient, cheap, and for most of us, good enough. But science wasn't finished, because even quartz, for all its steadiness, is not perfect. Over time, the crystal drifts. Seconds slip, and in some realms, even 1 second is too much. Satellites, global finance, deep space communication. Here, time must be exact, not to the second, not to the millisecond, but to the billionth. So scientists turn to something smaller, still smaller than quartz, smaller than gears. They turned to the atom. Atoms, like quartz, vibrate, but they don't wear down. They don't change with heat or moisture or movement. An atom's rhythm is universal. The same in Paris, in Tokyo, on the moon, in 1955. The first atomic clock was built. It used cesium, an element whose atoms vibrate exactly 9,192,631,770 times per second. That number isn't an estimate, it's a definition. Today, 1 second is the time it takes for a cesium atom to complete that exact number of cycles. Time is no longer just counted. It is defined by nature itself. And with atomic clocks, we can measure time so precisely that even after 100 million years, they'd be off by less than a second. Imagine that. A machine that tells time as faithfully as the universe. These clocks don't live in homes. They live in laboratories, suspended in vacuum chambers, shielded from vibration, from heat, from noise. Some use lasers. Some float atoms in magnetic fields. All of them listen to the softest, steadiest rhythm you could ever imagine. And why does this matter? Because everything depends on time. Your phone's GPS works only because satellites carry atomic clocks. They tell your device where you are by calculating the difference in arrival time of signals from space. Even a 1 microsecond error could place you kilometers away. Banks use atomic time to timestamp transactions. Air traffic controllers, scientists, running experiments, all rely on time measured in billions of seconds. Without atomic clocks, your modern world would dissolve into confusion. But these clocks aren't just tools. They're reflections of something deeper. A desire to know time, not just as experience, but as truth. To hold a second so gently that even the atom's breath can be counted, and yet, For all their perfection, atomic clocks do not make time feel different. They do not slow your heartbeat. They do not stretch a joyful hour or hasten a restless night. They are pure, precise, unemotional. Time, to them, is a number. To you, it is something else. It is love, waiting, a memory that arrives too soon, a silence that lingers too long. No atomic clock can measure how fast a holiday passes, or how slowly a hospital waiting room moves. And so, there are two kinds of time. The outer, counted in pulses, in digits, in atoms, and the inner, felt, through breath, through memory, through meaning. Both are real, both matter. One can guide satellites, the other, your heart, and maybe they're not so separate after all, because even atomic time must be interpreted, connected, understood, and maybe when your watch syncs with a satellite, and that satellite with a laboratory, and that laboratory with a cesium atom, what you're really syncing with is the rhythm of the universe itself. So tonight, as you lie still, remember, your body may not hum at 9 billion cycles per second, but it hums just the same. It keeps time, not perfectly, but beautifully, and above you, far above, a satellite keeps ticking, keeping you on course. You are, in every way, still connected to the stars. But if we can measure time so precisely, what is it, really? Where does it come from? Is it a river or something deeper? Next, we step into the world of Newton to meet the man who imagined time as absolute. Flowing, eternal dot, picture a river dot wide, smooth, flowing without hurry or hesitation now. Imagine everything you know, every falling apple, every orbiting moon, every ticking clock floating in that river. This was Newton's time, a perfect flow, unchanging, absolute, in the 17th century. Isaac Newton gave the world a vision of the universe that felt like truth, elegant, predictable, eternal to him. Time was not a feeling, not a rhythm or a sensation. It was structure. It was the silent stage upon which all events unfolded. He wrote, absolute, true and mathematical time, of itself and from its own nature, flows equably without relation to anything external. In other words, time flows, whether you watch it or not, whether anything happens or not. It simply is. Imagine a clock ticking in an empty room. Nothing moves, no one listens, yet still the hands advance. That is Newton's universe, a universe where time is a backdrop, constant, steady, unaffected. It made sense. It explained why objects fall the same way today as they did yesterday, why planets orbit predictably, why a cannonball's path could be drawn with lines and numbers. Time, in this model, was the anchor. It made math work. It made the universe. KNOWABL, and for centuries it was enough. Newton's laws became gospel. His time became the default. A river flowing silently beneath every calculation, beneath every human breath. It was comforting, reassuring, stable, but also a little lonely dot, because Newton's time didn't care about you. It didn't stretch with joy or shrink with fear. It didn't pause for grief or race with laughter. It moved forward, with or without you. It wasn't wrong. It just wasn't everything. Still, the world embraced it and built around it. Trains began to run on time. Factory bells rang at exact hours. People synchronized their watches and aligned their lives with the tick of Newton's imagined river. But not everyone agreed. A philosopher named Leibniz, Newton's intellectual rival, had a different view. He believed that time was not something that exists on its own, but a way of describing change. That without events, there was no time. That time is not a river, but the motion of the boats upon it. He asked, if nothing moves, does time pass? To Newton, yes. To Leibniz, no. This question echoes still, in physics, in philosophy, even. In your own quiet moments, when you lie awake and nothing seems to move, does time feel real? Or only when things change? Newton's view won for a while because it worked. It made the world predictable. You could throw a ball, calculate its arc, predict where it would land, not by watching, but by trusting the math. Time was now part of equations. A variable, a measure, a constant dot. Engineers used it. Sailors used it. Even poets, sometimes. And yet, underneath all that precision, questions lingered. If time flows absolutely, what makes it now? Why do we experience only one moment at a time, when all others past and future also exist in this river? Why can we not step backward? Newton didn't answer. Perhaps he didn't need to. His time wasn't emotional, it was mechanical. But you don't live in equations. You live in moments, in pauses, in feelings that stretch and contract. Still, there's something soothing about Newton's river, something solid, it says. You don't have to feel time for it to exist. It is always there, holding the shape of your days, whether you notice it or not. That's why Newton's model lasted so long. It explained planets, it explained pendulums, it explained the everyday, and sometimes that's all we need. A framework to rest inside. But the universe doesn't always follow frameworks, and cracks began to form by the 19th century. Scientists studying light noticed strange things. The speed of light they found was always the same, no matter how fast. You were moving, that didn't fit Newton's model. In his world, speeds add, motion stacks, but light refused to obey, and if light defied the flow, perhaps time wasn't so steady after all. This quiet contradiction would eventually reach a young clerk in a Swiss patent office, someone who would take Newton's river, thank it politely, and then bend it into something else entirely. But that's another chapter, for now. Let yourself rest in Newton's world, a world of motion and mass, of apples falling and planets turning, a world where time is steady, like a song that never speeds up, never fades, just flows. Even if you turn away, it continues. Even if you forget, it remembers. Even if your heart races, even if your thoughts drift, time, in Newton's vision, is there. A river beneath your feet, carrying you forward without ripples, without doubt. But if time is a river, what happens when gravity bends the riverbed? What happens when motion distorts the current? In the next chapter, we meet the man who broke time open and found that it doesn't always flow the same for everyone. Time was once a silent river, smooth, predictable, constant. It flowed behind the scenes, never seen, but always trusted. Then came a man with wild hair, a gentle gaze, and a quiet hunger too. Question what others believed. Albert Einstein, he saw the river too, but noticed something odd. Sometimes the current seemed to shift. Sometimes two people didn't agree on what happened first. Or when Dot and so, he listened to the universe. He studied light and motion and thought deeply, not just with numbers, but with imagination. And what he discovered was not a flaw in the clock, but a flaw in how we understood it. Time Einstein realized, doesn't flow the same for everyone. It stretches, it contracts, it bends. Time is not a ruler. It's a fabric woven together with space, and what affects one, affects the other. This idea was called relativity, and it changed everything. Let's begin with the first thread, special relativity. Published in 1905, Einstein was only 26, a clerk at a patent office, a quiet thinker, filing inventions by day, reimagining reality by night. He asked a simple question: what if you're moving very, very fast, almost at the speed of light? Would time still feel the same? The answer, gently, was no. If you move fast enough, time slows down for you. Not as a feeling, but as a fact. This is called time dilation, and it's not science fiction. It's real. It's been tested. It's been proven. Imagine two twins. One stays on Earth. The other boards a spaceship and travels. Near the speed of light, years pass on Earth. The twin grows older. But when the traveler returns, they are younger. They've lived less time, not because of magic, because of motion. Fast motion bends time. Even airplanes prove this. When atomic clocks fly across the world, then return to compare with those left behind, they show tiny differences. The ones that flew have ticked a little slower. Time, it seems, is not absolute. It listens to speed, but that's only the beginning. 10 years later, Einstein gave the world his deeper theory, general relativity, and here the river of time bends not just with speed, but with gravity. Imagine space and time as a vast sheet, a soft, invisible fabric. Place a planet on it, and the sheet curves. The more massive the object, the deeper the curve. Now imagine placing a clock near that heavy object. Its ticks stretch. Its seconds lengthen. Time, near gravity, slows down. This is not a metaphor. This is measurable. Put two clocks, one at sea level, one on a mountain, and you'll see it. The clock on the mountain ticks faster, ever so slightly, because it's farther from Earth's gravity. Right now, your head is aging faster than your feet. It's true, the difference is minuscule, but it exists. It means time is not even constant within your own body. Now imagine standing near a black hole, a place where gravity is so intense, it warps time almost to a stop. You, watching from afar, would see someone near the black hole move in slow motion. Their seconds would stretch into hours. Their life, from your view, would nearly freeze. Meanwhile, for them, time would feel normal. The stretch is not felt. It simply is. This isn't just a thought experiment. Satellites that orbit the Earth experience both kinds of time bending. They move fast, which slows time, but they're high above, where gravity is weaker, which speeds time up. The result, their clocks would drift, unless we constantly correct them. And we do, because those satellites power your GPS, without adjusting for time dilation. Your phone would be lost by miles. So when you check your location, you're depending on Einstein's truths, on time that flexes and folds, on a universe that whispers. Time is personal. Time depends on where you are and how fast you move. But Einstein's gift was not just the math. It was the image, space and time, once separate, now bound together. Not threads, but a tapestry. He called it spacetime, 4 dimensions, woven into one continuous whole. When you move through space, you also move through time, and the faster you go through space, the slower you go through time. It's a trade, a balance, a dance, and you're always dancing, even now, As you lie still, you're moving through space-time, gently, unconsciously. Your body may rest, but your seconds still pass, each shaped by gravity, by position, by motion. And there's something beautiful about that, because it means your time is yours. It's not just a number on a screen. It's a path shaped by your journey, your position in the cosmos. Einstein gave us more than equations. He gave us awe. He reminded us that the universe is not fixed. It responds, it curves, it stretches. And time, that quiet rhythm beneath your breath, is part of that response. So tonight, as you drift between thought and dream, remember this: time is not a single song. It is a symphony, with each instrument playing its own part, its own pace. And even if the difference is small, you are part of that music. You move to a rhythm that is entirely your own. And though we often speak of time as something that slips away, Einstein taught us that it doesn't slip. It curves, it responds, it waits in its own strange way. And maybe that's why some moments feel like forever, and others disappear, because time isn't fixed. It's felt, it's curved by love, by gravity, by memory. But even in this flexible universe, one mystery remains. Why does time always move forward? Why don't we feel it go backward, or sideways, or pause? Next, we'll follow that arrow to find out why time has a direction, and whether time has always seemed so steady, so sure, like the beat of a metronome, or the slow drip of rain on stone. But what if time isn't just passing? What if it's falling? Not falling apart, falling down. Imagine standing at the top of a tall mountain. The wind is thin, the stars feel closer, and the seconds, they tick, just a little faster. Now imagine standing in a valley, deep and wide, with the weight of stone pressing beneath your feet. There, time slows by just a whisper, but enough to notice. If you listen with the right kind of clock, this is not a metaphor. This is gravity. And gravity doesn't just pull on your body, it pulls on your seconds. This is called gravitational time dilation, and it's one of the most delicate, beautiful consequences of Einstein's general theory of relativity. In his view, space and time are not separate. They are stitched together into something we call spacetime. And when you place something heavy into space-time, a star, a planet, a black hole, it creates a kind of dent, a curve, a well. And inside that well, time flows differently. Near the surface of the Earth, you are closer to the center of mass. The gravitational field is stronger. So your time slows, just a tiny bit, compared to someone standing on a rooftop, or on a mountaintop, or floating in orbit. Right now, your feet are experiencing time at a slightly slower rate than your head. Each part of you is living in a slightly different now. The difference is tiny, a few nanoseconds, but it's real and measurable. In 1976, scientists sent a precise atomic clock on a rocket to the edge of space. When it returned, the clock had ticked ever so slightly faster than its twin on Earth. This wasn't an error. It was confirmation. Time bends with gravity. The stronger the gravity, the slower time moves. Now imagine something truly massive. A black hole, not just heavy, but unimaginably dense. Its gravity is so intense that not even light can escape. Near a black hole, space-time stretches like pulled taffy. And if you could stand near the edge, the event horizon, time, for you would almost stop. A minute for you could be 1,000 years for someone far away, and yet, for you, Everything feels normal. Your heartbeat, your thoughts, your breath. Time hasn't changed for you, but it has changed for the world around you. It's hard to imagine, but think of it like this. You are standing in a deep well, looking up at a friend at the surface. Your voice takes longer to reach them. The light reflecting off your watch shifts just a little. Your seconds are heavier. And if you could climb out of that well, you would find the world has aged while you were still. This is not fantasy. It's physics, and we live with its consequences every day. The satellites that guide your GPS must constantly adjust their clocks to account for gravity's effect on time. Because they are farther from Earth, time runs faster for them than for us. If we didn't correct for this, your map would be wrong by kilometers within minutes. So gravity does more than hold you down. It slows your time. Even the Earth's core, deeper in gravity's well, ages more slowly than the surface. The difference is small, but over millennia it matters. And perhaps there's something poetic in that. That the weight of the world can bend not just space, but your very experience of now. When you feel the pull of gravity, you're feeling time stretch. When you climb a staircase, you're rising not just in space, but in tempo. When you lie flat, your body's own seconds are slightly more in sync. Even in stillness, you are moving through a shifting field of time. And this, perhaps, is one reason gravity feels so mysterious, so heavy, so final, because it pulls on more than your body. It pulls on the very thread that carries your life. Every second has a weight. Every moment leans against the mass of everything near it, and the more mass, the deeper the bend. Einstein taught us that gravity is not a force in the usual sense. It's a curve, a shape, and in that shape, time follows a different path. Think of the Earth orbiting the Sun, not pulled by an invisible hand, but moving along. The curves carved into space-time by the Sun's enormous presence. The Earth moves not because it's dragged, but because it's falling along a curved path, and so are you, right now. As you lie still, you are falling through space-time, following the gentle slope created by Earth's mass. You don't feel it sits in the background, like a silent observer, unmoving. In this view, time isn't a player. It's a stage. It doesn't flow. It just is. And yet, things still happen. Particles shift. Energy changes. But how? Where is the clock? Physicists are still asking. Some believe time is not fundamental, that it isn't built into the fabric of reality, but instead emerges when you look at patterns between things. Others say time might be a byproduct of entanglement, the strange connection between particles that allows one to affect the other instantly. Because everything around you is falling to dot your clock. Your breath, the walls, the air, and in this shared fall, time passes differently than it would on the moon, or in space, or near a star. Time, then, is not only flexible, it is woven into the shape of reality, a shape that bends, not with emotion, but with weight. So, the next time you feel gravity pull, remember, it's more than a downward force. It's a distortion, a slowing, a gentle warping of your time. And maybe, in a strange way, it's comforting that even the smallest moment, even the quietest breath, is shaped by the Earth's embrace, that you are never just in time. You are in curved time, guided, bent, cradled, but this bending brings new questions. If time can stretch and slow, why does it always move forward? Why do we remember the past, but never the future? Next, we follow time's arrow to discover why it has a direction at all. Close your eyes. Imagine time, not as a ticking clock, but as a path stretching out before you. You walk forward, step by step, but never turn around. The footprints you leave behind are warm, real, remembered. But what lies ahead? It's always hidden, always imagined. This is how we live, walking in one direction. We remember yesterday. We anticipate tomorrow. We never confuse the two. But here's the mystery. The laws of physics don't care. The rules that guide falling apples and orbiting planets and dancing particles all work just as well. In reverse, play the equations backward and nothing breaks. A dropped glass unshatters. Smoke curls back into a flame. Rain flies upward. And yet, in your life, none of this ever happens. So why? Why does time flow forward, even when physics doesn't insist on it? This mystery is called the arrow of time, and tonight we follow its quiet flight. One clue lies in something called entropy, a word that sounds technical, but means something simple: disorder. Entropy is a measure of how mixed up, how spread out, how chaotic things are. Think of your bedroom. It takes effort to keep it tidy, but let go. And slowly, socks drift, papers scatter, and entropy increases. That's the rule. In a closed system, entropy always rises. Things tend toward mess. Not because mess is bad, but because it's more likely. There are more ways for things to be disordered than to be perfectly arranged. This is the second law of thermodynamics, and it's not just about rooms. It's about the entire universe. A cup of tea cools, a candle melts, a house ages. None of these things go backward. Not because they can't, but because it's so unlikely. And this, scientists believe, is what gives time its arrow, from low entropy to high, from order to disorder, from past to future. You scramble an egg, you can't unscramble it. You remember what has been, not what might be. The past is low entropy, organized, stored, known. The future, it hasn't happened yet. It has infinite possibilities, each one a scattering of what now is whole. So the arrow of time isn't carved into the cosmos. It rises from probability. Things fall apart because there are more ways to fall than to stay together. And this gentle increase in disorder is what gives time its direction. But there's another piece. Memory. You remember the past because your brain records it. It stores the arrangement of things, the path of moments, but it can't record what hasn't happened. No. Footprints have been left in the future, so your mind only sees one way. Entropy and memory walk hand in hand. Each time your brain lays down a memory, it increases entropy. It burns energy, mixes chemicals, stores, traces. You create disorder to capture meaning. Even thinking moves you forward in time. Now, think of a fire. It burns hot, bright, and then fades. It doesn't relight itself, it consumes, and in doing so, creates more disorder. This is the universe's arrow, not sharp, not loud, but steady. Even galaxies obey it. Stars burn hydrogen, become heavier. Elements expand, collapse, scatter their pieces. Everything moves from concentrated energy to scattered heat. And yet, at the very beginning, just after the Big Bang, the universe was incredibly ordered. Low entropy, smooth, simple. Why? No one knows for sure. Why did time begin with such tidy conditions? What force or accident set the arrow in motion? It's one of the deepest mysteries of cosmology. Some say it's just how things started. Others say it must be explained through hidden laws or unseen causes. Still others believe the question itself may be flawed, that we only ask it because we experience time as beings made of memory. You are not outside the arrow. You are part of it. Your thoughts, your feelings, your breath, all move one way. Even when you sleep, your body continues. Dreams stretched forward. Time doesn't loop. It lingers, then moves on. There are other arrows, too. The causal arrow, effects follow causes. The psychological arrow, you remember the past, not the future. The cosmological arrow, the universe expands. Galaxies drift apart. All these arrows point the same way forward. Together, they reinforce the feeling that time is not just ticking, but moving. And yet, time is strange. When you reflect, when you remember, when you long for a different outcome, you stretch time in your mind. You replay moments. You imagine alternatives. You relive. Memory becomes a form of time travel, one allowed within the arrow's rules. But you never change the past, only how it lives in you, and that's part of the arrow. 2. It teaches you that change is possible, but only ahead. You can't unring a bell, but you can choose what the next sound will be. Time's arrow points forward because it must, for life, for growth, for healing. If everything rewound, nothing would be learned. Entropy would shrink. Memory would vanish. You would never know how far you've come. So perhaps this one-way motion is a gift, not because it's perfect, but because it gives meaning. Moments matter because they end. Choices matter because they can't be undone. You matter because you are part of times unfolding. So tonight, as the arrow carries you gently toward sleep, remember, you don't need to resist the flow. You only need to feel it. Let time pass through. You like light through glass, bending, coloring, but never stopping. You are not chasing time. You are riding it. And even in stillness, you are moving forward always. But what if time isn't a river at all? What if it's just a cloud of possibility, flickering, fuzzy, uncertain? In the next chapter, we drift into the quantum world, where time becomes a whisper, and the rules bend softly in the dark. In the world you know, time moves like breath. One moment, then another. Always forward, but step beneath the surface, into the world of atoms and particles, and time gets quiet. Not because it stops, but because it no longer knows which way to go. This is quantum time, a realm not of certainties, but of chances, where particles do not sit still, and neither does the clock. To enter this space, you must let go of how things should move. Let go of before and after. Let go of straight lines, because in the quantum world, time is not a ruler, it's a mist. Let's begin with something familiar, the ticking of a clock. In classical physics, you can watch it, measure it, predict the next tick dot. But in quantum mechanics, there is no ticking, only a wave, a vibration, a cloud of probability. Particles, the tiniest things we know, don't exist in one place until you look at them. They live in possibility, and their evolution over time is described by something called the Schrödinger equation. It tells us how the wave function, a map of all the possibilities, changes. But here's the strange part. Time in this equation is not dynamic. It doesn't bend or stretch or slow down near gravity. It simply vents across space. They suggest time arises as entangled particles grow more complex, as relationships deepen, as systems evolve. In this view, time is not a river. It's a mirror reflecting the changing patterns of the universe. Still others look to the Willard-Arwitt equation, a deeper version of quantum mechanics meant to describe the whole universe. In that equation, time disappears. Gone, no variable, no ticking, just a timeless now, a static whole. It suggests the universe, in its deepest truth, might not be unfolding. It might simply be all moments, all events, layered, silent, complete, like a song already written, waiting to be played. But if the universe is timeless, why do you feel time? Why do you wake, sleep, age? Why do you remember yesterday, but not tomorrow? One idea is that time emerges through memory. As your brain processes events, it creates records, it builds a sequence, and in doing so, it experiences time. But beneath those memories, beneath the breath and blood, the neurons and thoughts, there may be no flow, just change, just difference. Time then becomes a story you tell to explain those differences. But not everyone agrees. Some physicists believe time is still real, that even in the quantum world, something must be moving, some hidden variable, some unmeasured shift. And so the debate continues, not just in theory, but in experiment. Quantum clocks now exist, made of ions, trapped and cooled. They tick not with gears, but with vibrations of atoms. These clocks are so precise, they can detect the difference in time between the top and bottom of a single human hair. Even here, in the smallest scales, we search for time. We try to find its pulse, its breath, but it remains elusive, because at the quantum level, nothing is ever certain, only likely, and so time itself may only be likely too. Perhaps that's why dreams feel timeless, why deep meditation feels endless, why a single moment of awe can feel infinite. In those spaces, you leave classical time. You enter the cloud, the flicker, the quantum dot, and maybe, just maybe, that flicker lives inside you. Your body is made of atoms, after all, of vibrating strings, dancing waves, entangled histories. Perhaps, when you pause and truly feel still, you are listening to the quiet hum of a universe that doesn't rush, that doesn't count, that doesn't move in straight lines, just probabilities, stacked softly like falling snow. Tonight, you live in two worlds, the one with clocks and calendars, and the one beneath, where time is not measured but felt as potential. There is no tick in that world, no arrow, only the shimmer of change. A before that could have been after, and after that might never arrive. In quantum time, even causality blurs. Effects don't always follow causes. Sometimes the order depends on the observer. It's not chaos. It's possibility, a deep breath in, a soft exhale. And somewhere in between, the universe chooses, or maybe it already has. You are not separate from this. You are built from it. Your thoughts, your dreams, your stillness. So tonight, as you lie quiet, imagine time not as something chasing you, but something you contain. A soft sphere, a shimmering cloud, holding all your could-haves, all your almosts, and all your now. Let the classical clock fade. Let the seconds lose their edge, and listen, instead, for the whisper of change, of maybe, of not yet, of now. But even if time flickers, what if your body still keeps time with deep, rhythmic certainty? Even without clocks, even without thought, can your cells still know the hour? Next, we return to your biology to explore how your body remembers the sun, Time, for all its mystery, can still be trusted in your bones, because beneath the clocks, beneath the quantum fog, there is a beat you've always followed, not counted in seconds, but in light. You are a child of the sun, not just warmed by it, but ruled by it. Every morning, when light touches your eyes, your body takes notice. It shifts, it stirs, it begins again. This is your circadian rhythm, your body's own timekeeper, tuned not by machines, but by sky. The word comes from Latin, circa diem, about a day. And for most living things, it's a 24-hour loop. Not exact, but close enough to stay in step with Earth's spin. Inside your brain, in a place small and quiet, just above where your optic nerves cross, is the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the SCN. It's your master clock, a cluster of cells that watches the light. When the sun rises, your SCN sends messages: wake up, warm up, release cortisol. Slowly, gently rejoin the world. And when the sun sets, it shifts again. It lowers your temperature. It quiets your systems. It releases melatonin, the hormone of dusk, the soft chemical that calls you toward sleep. This rhythm isn't a thought. It's a pulse, and it doesn't just live in your brain. It echoes through every cell, every organ. Your liver follows it. Your heart, your skin. Even if you lived in darkness, cut off from clocks and calendars, your body would still try to follow the day, but it would drift. Because your natural rhythm runs a little long, about 24.2 hours. Without sunlight, you'd lose track. Sleep would shift. Energy would fade. Appetite would change. That's why light matters so much. Morning light resets your clock. It anchors you to the Earth's gentle turn. When you wake with the sun, your body knows what time it is, and when you don't. When you stay in darkness too long, or flood your nights with blue light, your rhythm begins to fray. Melatonin is delayed. Sleep comes later. Morning feels harder. Your body is not broken. It's simply mistimed. This rhythm doesn't just control sleep. It guides digestion, focus, reaction time, even mood. Your temperature rises and falls each day. Your blood pressure sways. Your mind sharpens at certain hours and softens at others. This rhythm affects how well medicine works, how deeply you dream, how quickly you heal. There is a whole science for this now, chronobiology, and it reveals something ancient, that time lives inside you, not on your wrist, but in your cells. Different people move to different rhythms. Some are larks, early risers, bright before dawn. Some are owls, more alive at night, creative, when others sleep. These aren't habits, they're patterns, written into genes, shaped by age, fine-tuned by experience. But the sun still leads, and your rhythm follows it, even when you're not looking. That's why jet lag feels so strange. When you travel far, across many time zones, your body doesn't follow instantly. It still thinks it's midnight when it's noon. Your sleep stumbles. Your hunger shifts. You feel out of place because you are in time. Your SCN takes days to catch up. Even a single hour, like during daylight saving, can affect mood, alertness, even heart health. Your body's rhythm is not a suggestion. It's a system, and it listens most closely to light. Not just any light, but natural light. Morning light, the kind that warms your skin and sharpens your mind without making a sound. So if you ever feel scattered, drained, adrift, try this step. Outside in the early day, let the sun meet your eyes. Don't stare, Just feel. Let the rhythm find you. Your body remembers. Even your gut has its clock. The microbes that live inside you follow cycles. 2. They help you digest more effectively during the day. They rest with you at night. Eat in rhythm, and your body thanks you. Eat off cycle, and it struggles. There is harmony here between you and your inner ecology. Even your immune system listens. It fights harder at certain hours, repairs better at others. Timing matters, and nature knew this long before we gave it names. Plants follow rhythms. They open with light. They sleep in darkness. They turn to follow the sun, not because they see, but because they remember. Their time is built from light, as yours is. You are not separate from the day. You are shaped by it. Your clock is not artificial. It is biological, celestial, and that's why, even in cities, under electric ceilings, your body still leans toward sunrise, still feels peace in the evening, still knows when to rest, if only you let it. So tonight, as your body quiets, let the rhythm return, let the ancient pulse, shared by plants, birds, and stars, carry you. You are not drifting. You are circling, a slow dance with the earth's rotation, a breath in time with the sun. But if your body tells time through rhythm, what about your mind? What if time feels long or short depending on how you experience it? Next, we follow the psychology of time, where minutes stretch or vanish depending on where your thoughts wander. Time, as the clock tells it, moves evenly. 1 second, then another, always the same. But your mind does not follow that tick. It feels time differently. Sometimes slow, like a long sigh. Sometimes fast, like a laugh already fading. This is psychological time, the way your brain perceives the passing of moments, and it often disagrees with the clock. You've felt it. A joyful hour with a friend disappears before you can hold it. But 5 minutes in a waiting room feels like a lifetime. The seconds haven't changed, but your attention has. When you are engaged, your focus is outward. You lose the sense of time because you stop watching it. Your brain has no reason to count. It simply lives the moment. This is why joy feels fast, because you are inside the moment, not measuring it. But when you're bored, your attention turns inward. You begin to notice time itself, and with nothing else to hold. Each second grows heavy. Your internal clock, that quiet pacemaker in your brain, starts to tap louder. It creates pulses that you interpret as time passing. When you're bored, your brain sends more of these pulses, and so time feels like it's crawling. This is why a slow day at work can feel longer than an active one, even if the hours are the same. Time, then, is shaped by how you use it, not in action, but in attention. And there's more. Emotion also. Bends time when you are frightened, truly afraid. Time seems to slow. People who fall from great heights or get into accidents often describe the same sensation. It all happened in slow motion. But clocks prove it. DIDN single quotes T dot instead. Your brain recorded more detail. It became hyper-aware, marking every flicker of experience. Later, when you recall it, the memory feels long because it holds more data. The moment is fuller, so your mind assumes it lasted longer. Time didn't stretch. Memory did. Joy does the opposite. When you're deeply happy, your brain relaxes. It records less detail. You're not on alert, you're immersed. And when you look back, the moment feels short, because there's less to replay. So fear and joy both distort time. but in opposite ways. Fear slows time during the moment. Joy shortens time after. It's past, but both are real to you. Even novelty plays a part. New experiences stretch time, because your brain pays more attention when something is unfamiliar. The first day of a trip feels long. You see, hear, feel new things. Your mind stays alert. It marks everything, but by day 3, you've adapted. You record less. The day feels shorter. This is why childhood often feels slow in memory. When you were small, everything was new. Your brain worked constantly to understand the world. So those years feel longer, not because they were, but because they were packed with firsts. As you age, you enter routines. Days repeat, and the brain, efficient as always, saves less. Fewer bookmarks, fewer vivid memories. And so, time seems to speed up. You're not losing time. You're compressing it. Even your expectations affect time. When you wait for something exciting, time stretches. You become aware of the wait. Your brain starts checking the clock, over and over, creating more pulses, more awareness, more wait. But when the moment finally comes and joy arrives, the hours vanish again. This push and pull between waiting and receiving shapes how you remember time. There's even a term for it: temporal illusion. The brain is not a stopwatch. It's a storyteller. It rewrites time based on mood, attention, and memory. This is why meditation can feel timeless. When you focus deeply on your breath, on the now, time stops being counted. You don't watch the clock. You don't think about before or after. You simply exist. And in that stillness, time fades. It's not gone. It's just irrelevant. Flow states work the same way. When you're so absorbed in a task, a thought, a creation, you stop noticing time. Hours pass like minutes. You emerge, blinking, surprised by the world. You are not out of time. You are beyond it and boredom. It's not the absence of activity. It's the absence of meaningful attention. Even a quiet day can feel rich if your attention is engaged. But even the busiest day can feel endless if nothing holds your heart. So what can you do to shape time from the inside? Pay attention, not to the clock, but to the moment. Notice color, sound, breath. Seek novelty. Change routines. Even small shifts create bigger memory footprints. Let joy stretch. Let slowness soften. Let presence deepen the hour. And know that it's okay for time to feel inconsistent. It's not a flaw. It's a feature of being human. You are not a machine. You are a witness. And time is not just what passes. It's what you live through. So tonight, as your thoughts slow and your breath deepens, let go of the stopwatch in your mind. Let time flow without weight. Let boredom dissolve. Let memory rest. Because when you stop chasing time, you begin to feel it again, not as something slipping away, but as something unfolding moment by moment, breath by breath. But if time is shaped by feeling, can we move through it at all? Can we visit the past or leap into the future? Next, we turn to the dream of time travel and ask, is it just a fantasy or something physics might allow? Close your eyes. Let your thoughts drift back to a quiet morning, a warm voice, a place you loved and haven't seen in years. Can you feel the shape of that moment? The color of the light, the air, the sound. You are not there, but somehow you are. This is memory, and memory, in its quiet way, is time travel. Not with machines, not with physics, but with feeling, Your mind carries a map, not just of where you've been, but when. And it can take you back with a scent, a song, a stray photograph. This journey is not exact. It's soft around the edges. Moments blend, details fade. But the emotion remains. You remember how something felt, more than exactly what happened. That's because memory is not a recording. It's a recreation. Each time you recall a moment, your brain rebuilds it, piece by piece, light by light. You are not stepping into the past. You are repainting it from what remains. And yet, it feels real, because it once was. Your memories are not ghosts. They are footprints, marks of where you've stood, echoes of the time you've lived. And just as you walk backward in memory, you also walk forward into imagination. Have you ever pictured a future day with such detail that you felt it, the sun on your skin, the face of someone you haven't met, the sound of something not yet spoken? This too is time travel, not through fact, but through possibility. Your brain uses the same tools for memory and imagination. It builds futures from the same clay it uses to shape the past. This is why daydreams feel so vivid. Why worry can grip you even when nothing has happened yet. Because your mind can project you forward as easily as it draws you back. In dreams, this becomes even more powerful. You are not bound by order. Past, present, and future blend together in a fluid stream of story and image. You may dream of something long ago and wake feeling it just happened. You may dream of something you've never experienced and carry its emotion all day. In this way, you are always moving through time, even when still, because time is not just direction, it is narrative. You are the storyteller, and the story lives in both directions. But is this real time travel? Not in the physical sense. Not as physics defines it. You cannot visit your childhood. You cannot step into next year. But you can feel. Them and feelings, for the mind, are real. Still, the question lingers. Could we ever go back? Could we move forward more than just a second at a time? In theory, maybe. Einstein's relativity already showed us that moving close to the speed of light can slow time down. So, if you traveled fast enough, you could return to find the world much older. This is forward time travel, not imagined, but proven. Astronauts on the space station age slightly less than we do on Earth. The difference is tiny, but it's there. Backward travel is more difficult. Some equations allow it. They speak of closed time-like curves, of wormholes and bending space. But we've never seen it, never touched it, and even if we could, should we? What would it mean to change a moment, to erase a choice, to undo the path that brought you here? Perhaps the past is not meant to be changed, but remembered, and perhaps the future is not meant to be known, but created. Your mind already knows this. It revisits pain to understand it. It revisits joy to feel whole again. It imagines next week not to predict, but to prepare. Time, in this way, is a canvas, and you, a painter who works in both directions. So tonight, you don't need a machine to travel. You only need silence. Let your thoughts wander. Where do they go first? To something that happened, or something that might? There is no right answer. Memory and imagination are not opposites. They are twins, born from the same flame, and in their dance, you live many lives. You are not trapped in the present. You are shaped by the past, guided by the future, anchored gently in now. So if you want to travel, close your eyes, breathe in, Feel the shape of a day long gone. Breathe out and let a dream arrive of something not yet begun. You are walking through time not by force, but by thought, and there is no need to rush. Moments will come to you, memories, visions, soft windows into elsewhere. This is your gift, to feel time in many directions, and though your body stays still, your soul moves. It walks backward to carry love. It walks forward to carry hope, and in between you rest, held not by seconds, but by story. But what if time itself isn't even real? What if, beneath everything, the flow you feel is an illusion, a trick of memory, a rhythm your mind creates? In the next chapter, we face the deepest question of all. Does time truly exist? You're already a time traveler, not in fiction. In fact, right now, you're moving through time at the rate of 1 second per second, a gentle, constant slide into the future. But what if you could change the speed? What if you could skip ahead or reach backward to a day long gone? Would you? And more importantly, could you? For centuries, humans have dreamed of this, turning time into a path, a direction you can walk both ways. Writers imagined machines, portals, magical clocks, but scientists asked a deeper question. Does the universe allow it? The answer is more strange than you might expect. Let's begin with what we know. Time travel into the future is not only possible, it's already happened. Not in leaps, but in whispers. Einstein showed us that time is relative. It bends with speed. It stretches with gravity. Move fast enough, and your seconds grow longer. Stand near something heavy, and time slows for you. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station age more slowly than we do on Earth. Tiny differences, but measurable. In 1971, scientists flew atomic clocks on commercial jets around the globe. When the clocks returned, they were slightly behind their earthbound twins. This is time dilation. Travel into the future by moving through space. So if you built a spaceship that approached the speed of light, you could travel far and return, to find that decades had passed on Earth, while only a few years passed for you. You'd arrive in the future. Not imagined, but real. So forward travel. Yes, physics says yes. But the past, that's where things get strange. Could you go back? Could you visit yesterday? Hold a lost hand? Undo a mistake? The math offers possibilities, but reality resists. Some equations in general relativity allow for closed, time-like curves, paths through space-time that loop back on themselves. Think of space not as flat, but as something you can bend, twist, fold. Could you create a tunnel, a wormhole connecting to distant points in space and in time? If one end of the wormhole experiences time more slowly than the other, step through, and you could arrive in the past. This is theoretical, beautiful, terrifying, because once you open the past, you open the paradoxes. The most famous, the grandfather paradox. What happens if you travel back and prevent your own grandfather from meeting your grandmother? If they never meet, you're never born. But if you're never born, how did you go back? The logic collapses. And yet, some theories try to resolve this. One idea: the universe won't let you create paradoxes. Events will always unfold in a way that preserves consistency. Try to change the past, and something will stop you. The gun won't fire. You'll slip. Fate or physics intervenes. Another idea: many worlds. Every time a choice is made, a new timeline branches off, change the past, and you create a new universe, a different version of reality. Yours still exists, unchanged, but another now unfolds beside it. In that view, you don't rewrite history. You start a parallel one. But none of this has been proven. We've never built a wormhole, never bent time backward, never found evidence of travelers among us. Scientists argue that backward time travel is simply impossible, that the paradoxes are too tangled, the energy requirements too extreme. Others keep looking because the universe has not yet given a final answer. It leaves room for wonder, and maybe that's enough. Because even if you can't travel backward, you can still travel through. You can revisit the past in memory. You can shape the future through choice. You can slow down, breathe, and stretch the moment you're in. And maybe that's the truest time travel of all, to live a second fully, some consciously, gratefully, no machine required still. The dream persists, and perhaps someday we will find a way. Perhaps there are already travelers, too careful, too quiet, passing through unseen. Or perhaps, as some physicists suggest, time travel only becomes possible once it is invented. The machine opens a doorway, but nothing can pass through until the door exists. That's why we haven't seen travelers from the future. They can't come back until we build the bridge. It's a strange idea. But then again, so is time. So tonight, as you lie still, ask yourself, if you could go back, where would you go? Would you change anything? Or would you simply sit quietly in a moment you loved? And if you could leap ahead, what would you hope to find? Not just in the world, but in yourself. Time travel, real or not, reminds us of something beautiful, that moments matter, that time is precious because we can't rewind it, that memories are treasures because we can only carry them forward. So let this moment be enough. You are here now and the future waits. But what if time doesn't flow at all? What if it isn't a river or a road or a ticking clock, but something else entirely? Next, we leave time behind to ask if it even exists, or if we simply believe it does. You've always felt time move. You've felt it in your breath, your aging hands, the seasons sliding past your window. You've watched clocks count seconds. You've watched days bloom and end. But what if that feeling is an illusion? What if time doesn't flow, but simply exists? What if every moment, every laugh, every goodbye, every yet to be, is already there, not waiting to happen, but fully formed, unfolded, eternal? This is the idea behind the block universe, a way of seeing time not as motion, but as structure. Think of space, a landscape stretching in all directions. The block universe says time is just another dimension, like length, width, and height. And just like every place exists simultaneously, so too does every moment. Your birth, this breath, your final hour, each is a point in the fabric. And they all exist, now not as memory, not as future, but as fixed slices in a four-dimensional shape. You don't travel through time. You're simply part of a timeless whole. It's unsettling, strange, but it arises naturally from Einstein's relativity. In his equations, there is no special now. What seems present to you might seem past or future to someone moving differently. If no now is privileged, then perhaps all moments are equal, already there, already real. This view eliminates the need for time to flow. There's no arrow, no current dot, just a static block, a cosmic story already told. Your life, in this view, is not unfolding. It's already unfolded, etched into space-time like ink on a scroll. You're not moving through time. You're being read by consciousness, one line at a time. But what reads the story? That question stays unanswered. Some say it's your brain, that your consciousness moves through these slices, giving the illusion of flow. Others say the self is part of the block, not moving, just positioned at different coordinates within the structure. You feel time because memory gives you sequence, but the sequence was always there. You're not writing it, you're experiencing it, and that's the haunting beauty of it. In the block universe, nothing is lost. Every moment you've lived still exists, just not from your current perspective. That day in the sunlight, that last hug, that quiet failure, they're not gone, they're just elsewhere, like rooms in a house, you know? Longer visit, but which still stand. This can bring comfort or grief. If the future is already real, do you still have choice? Do your decisions matter? Some say yes, that choice is part of the block. Your will, your doubts, your turning points are included in the shape of your story. You're not a puppet. You're a path. The block doesn't remove meaning. It contains it, all your loves, all your changes. They're still yours, just also part of a larger geometry. Others resist this idea. They feel it steals freedom, that it denies becoming, but maybe freedom was never about escaping time. Maybe it's about how deeply you live the moment you're in. And in that way, nothing is lost, because to you, this moment is always now, always alive, always unfolding exactly once, even if, in the block, it always was. So what does it mean to live inside a timeless universe? It means you are not separate from the cosmos. You are a thread in its tapestry, not flung forward, but woven in. It means time is not something you pass through. It's something you are, and when you lie still, as you are now, and let the moments slow, you can almost feel it, not the ticking, not the racing, but the shape, the completeness. You are not moving across a line, you are the line itself. Your past is not gone. Your future is not out of reach. They are simply not where your focus rests. You are here, but somewhere else. You are 7 years old. Somewhere else, you are yet to be born. Somewhere else, you are saying goodbye. Not imagined, but existing, each version of you, a glowing ember in the fire of Espaki. This idea does not erase change. It preserves it. It means you are never fully alone. Your moments walk beside you in silent halls of time. And perhaps, one day, we will find a way to sense them all at once. But for now, you feel time the way a story is read, line by line, word by word. Not because the rest isn't there, but because meaning needs rhythm, and rhythm needs pacing. This is how life teaches you to savor the moment, to sit inside it fully, not rushing, not delaying, but listening. You are not outside the story. You are not watching it unfold. You are the story. And your page, right now, says, rest. So, let this moment hold you, not as a passing thing, but as a permanent one. You are already written into the stars, already remembered by time itself, already whole in the block of forever. But if time does not move, and every moment already exists, why do we still feel the present as special? Why does now still feel so real, so sharp, so alive? Next, we return to the present, to explore why this moment is the one that always matters most. You've heard the theories. Time doesn't flow. Moments don't vanish. The universe is a block, complete and unmoving, and yet you feel it move. You feel the pull of memory, the ache of change, the steady unfolding of now into next. Why? Why does time feel so real if it might not be? That's the question, and perhaps the answer is not in equations, but in you. Because even if time is an illusion, it's one you live inside. One shaped by breath, by attention, by memory. You feel the now because your mind is built to. Your brain does not exist outside of time. It builds it. It creates the rhythm of before and after through signals and chemistry, through change. Think of a song. Each note lives only in context, not alone, but between the one before and the one after. Your experience of the present is like that. It's shaped by what just was and what might come. Your sense of now is not a single point. It's a window, a soft stretch of time, roughly a few seconds wide. This is called the specious present, a moving frame of perception that lets you sense rhythm, motion, language. Without it, music would be meaningless. Speech would be noise. The present isn't sharp, it's fluid, and your brain floats in it, moment to moment, like a boat on a gentle wave. But what makes it feel so real? Memory. Your mind holds what just happened. It compares it to what's happening now. And in that comparison, you feel flow, you feel change, and that creates the sensation of time passing. Even your sense of self depends on this. You know who you are because you remember who you were. Without memory, there is no past and no self. That's why time feels true, because it's tied to identity. Every moment you recall adds a thread to the fabric of who you are. Your first bike, your first loss, a sentence someone once said that still echoes. These aren't just memories. They are you, spanning time in both directions. Even your emotions mark time. Regret lives in the past. Hope lives in the future. Love stretches across both. And because of this, you carry time in your chest, not as an idea, but as a feeling. You grieve because something once was. You dream because something might be. So even if time is static beneath the surface, you still live it like a flame burning across still wood. You bring motion to what may already exist. And perhaps that's not a contradiction. Perhaps that's the point. Your mind is not built for timeless truth. It's built for story, and story needs time. It needs cause and effect, beginning and end, moments that build and moments that break. Even your thoughts are shaped by temporal flow. You finish sentences because your mind anticipates what comes next. You understand the world because your mind writes time into it, and that writing is powerful because it means the present is more than just an illusion. It's your focus, your access point, the only place where change can happen. Physics may say the future already exists, but you don't live in the future, you live here. This moment is where everything unfolds, where choices are made, where breath is felt, where silence deepens. And even if the moment is already written, you still experience it as new. The surprise you feel, the love, the wonder, they're real, and they give time its meaning. Because time may not move, but you do. You grow, you become, and each moment becomes precious, not because it passes, but because it is filled. You don't love a day because it fades. You love it because it mattered. And that's the gift of the illusion. It creates urgency, beauty, appreciation. If time stood still in your mind, you'd never feel the weight of a goodbye. You'd never feel the spark of something beginning. Time gives shape to meaning, not by flowing, but by being felt. So maybe the question isn't whether time is real. Maybe the question is, what do you do with it? Whether it flows or not, you feel it, and what you feel is a kind of truth. Because love is felt in time, so is kindness, and growth, and healing. You don't need time to be absolute for your life to have rhythm. You don't need the future to be unwritten for your dreams to matter. What matters is the moment you're in and how you meet it. Do you pause? Do you listen? Do you allow it to pass through you with grace? That's the power of now. Not because it's the only moment that exists, but because it's the only one you can touch. So tonight, let the mystery be. Let time be whatever it is, illusion or dimension, flow or structure. It doesn't change. The truth that this moment is yours, fully, quietly, always. And as you drift within this stillness, one final question remains. If time is a story, and you are the traveler, how does the story end? Next, we arrive at the closing chapter, to gently gather all we've learned and return to the timeless place we began. Time is not a thing you pass through. It is something you are part of. From the first breath you took to this quiet one now, you have been moving, not alone, but within a rhythm that connects everything. Imagine a tapestry, woven with light and shadow, with memory and momentum, with voices long gone and futures not yet spoken. Now imagine that somewhere in that pattern, you are a thread, not the biggest, not the brightest, but vital, because without you, the fabric wouldn't be whole. This is how you live inside time, not as a visitor, but as part of the design. You are woven into morning sunrises, into the soft rhythm of calendars, into someone else's memory and someone's future story. Your laughter once shaped someone's hour. Your silence once filled a room with something holy. You are not separate from time. You are one of its expressions. And as you've learned, time is not a straight road. It stretches, bends, loops through memory, and curls around dreams. It pulses in your cells. It dances in photons. It slows near gravity. It vanishes in joy. But through it all, you remain, not untouched, but transformed. Every second shapes you, but you shape time too, through meaning. Time, on its own, is motion, but in your hands, it becomes experience. You take the seconds, and you give them color. You take the hours, and fill them with intention. And the moments you love, they stay, not in the clock, but in the weave. Each memory you hold is a knot in the thread. Each choice, a new twist. Each breath, a shimmer of light passing through the fabric. You don't always notice it. You rush, you pause, you sleep, but always you are weaving. Even now, even here, even when you rest, and you are not alone. Billions of others are weaving to dot their threads, crossing yours in invisible ways. Through conversation, through shared grief, through glances, stories, and quiet understanding, your parents wove you into their time, and you may weave others into yours. And long after your last moment, the fabric will hold you, in memory, in rhythm, in the effects of your choices rippling forward. This is what it means to matter, not because time bends around you, but because you bend with it, consciously, lovingly, briefly. The universe is vast. Its scale is beyond imagination. Galaxies drift. Stars are born and die. Atoms blink in and out. And in the middle of that, you existed. You felt things. You remembered. You hoped. You looked at a clock, and you cared what it said. Not for the number, but for what it meant. That is a miracle. because time on its own is indifferent, but you bring tenderness to it. You give time its beauty. When someone misses you, they miss your moments, your presence in time. When you forgive, you release the past. You soften time's edges. When you create, you plant seeds in the soil of tomorrow. Your thread carries all of this: the laughs, the tears, the pauses, the pace. And even now, as your thoughts grow quiet, as your breath slows, you are still part of the weaving. The day behind you was a section of the pattern. The night ahead is a continuation, and somewhere in the fabric, this moment, right now, glows softly, not because it's perfect, but because you are here to feel it. The present is the only place the thread touches your fingers. So hold it gently. Know that you are not lost in time. You are carried by it, guided by memories, anchored in presence, pointed toward a future you. Help shape. Time may be long, the universe may be old, but your part is sacred. No one else lives your thread. No one else makes your pattern. And though the fabric stretches forever, your thread holds a distinct color, a unique rhythm, a whisper. That is only yours. Let that bring you peace. You don't need to understand time completely. You only need to remember that you are part of it, and in being part of it, you are connected to everything, from the beginning of the universe to this breath. Your story has been unfolding across light years and seconds alike, so let your thread rest tonight. Let it soften, let it fall into place among the others. You are held, you are known, you are woven, and now we approach the final hour, the last soft chapter in this slow unfolding. One final breath through the mystery of time, not to explain it, but to say goodbye, gently, with wonder still in our hands. You do it every night. You lie down, close your eyes, and the world begins to slip. You don't notice the exact moment. You don't announce your departure, but you leave. You disappear from this moment, not forever, but just long enough to return softer. This is sleep, and sleep, in its quiet way, is a kind of time travel, not through wormholes, not through light years, but through stillness. You surrender to sleep, and when you wake, time has passed. Your body has healed. Your thoughts have reorganized. Your memories have shifted, like books neatly reshelved in a dark, silent library. What felt heavy becomes distant. What felt urgent becomes gentle. You've traveled not far, but deeply, and in that depth, something real has changed. Sleep is not escape. It is passage, a place where clocks lose meaning, and dreams become storylines written in stars and shadow. It is where the mind rewinds, rebuilds, and releases, where the body rests not only from motion, but from meaning, where the self softens into quiet. You are still you, but you are not here, not fully, because during sleep, conscious time dissolves. You stop counting seconds, you stop planning, you stop remembering, the part of your brain that watches time, that constructs your sense of now, goes quiet, and without it, you float. Minutes pass unnoticed. Hours dissolve. You enter a space where time is unmeasured, yet deeply felt. That's why a short dream can feel like a lifetime. Why a whole night can feel like the blink of an eye. Sleep is the closest most of us come to stepping outside time regularly, gently, without even trying. And yet, it is essential, not just for rest, but for memory, healing, growth. During sleep, your brain reviews the day. It chooses what to keep, what to forget. It sorts experiences into meaning. It mends the body, repairs cells, cleanses the mind, and all of this happens without awareness, without control. Time passes, but you don't feel it. You only feel the after. This is why sleep is so profound. It is not passive. It is not absence. It is a journey you don't remember taking until you return. And when you do, you have crossed time's threshold without resistance. You've moved hours without movement. You've traveled without distance. And yet, there's more. Because in sleep, you don't just leave time. You also enter another, the world of dreams, where memories are mirrors, where logic bends, where emotion writes the script. Dreams don't follow clocks. They loop, they skip, they echo. You may live years in a dream, only to wake after 10 minutes. You may meet someone long gone, or find yourself in a place you've never seen but somehow know in dreams. You are not bound by physics. You are not limited by calendars. You are free, not in control, but uncontinuous. And in this freedom, the soul stretches. Sleep is not only recovery, it is renewal. It brings you back to yourself in quieter form. Each night you dissolve, and each morning you reassemble. Still you, but softer. This too is time travel. Not to change the past, not to rush the future, but to rest in the mystery between. Because sleep reminds you that time is not always to be measured. Sometimes it is simply to be felt. You don't watch it. You surrender to it. And in doing so, you trust something larger. You trust that when you return, the world will still be here. Your body will still breathe. Your thread in the tapestry will still hold. So tonight, as your thoughts slow and your breath finds its rhythm, you prepare to travel once more. Not far, not fast, but inward, into the place where time becomes stillness, where the mind rewrites itself, where everything that mattered today finds its proper place. You don't need to understand it. You only need to allow it. Let your eyes close. Let the weight of your body melt into the bed. Let the sounds around you fade into background, and let sleep come like a slow tide. Let it take you without hurry. You are not missing anything. You are simply moving gently through time. You are doing what the stars do, shining quietly. Even when unseen, you are doing what trees do, resting with purpose, preparing to grow. Sleep is not the end of the day. It is the continuation in another form. It is the part of your journey that happens in silence. And when you wake, you will have arrived somewhere new, not a different place, but a deeper one. So travel well. Gentle listener, let this final moment be your invitation to drift. You have learned. You have wondered. You have walked softly through centuries of time now. Let time walk through you, softly, slowly, silently, until the morning.